Chapter 506. After a long while, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion recovered his expression and said, "If you can break his record, this old man will give you a big gift." Big gift? Chen Daoxuan's eyes lit up slightly. It must be unusual to be called a great gift by the pavilion master of the Chuanbao Pavilion, the first artifact refiner of the human race. In fact, what Chen Daoxian covets the most is not the gift from the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, but the other party's method of refining immortal weapons. "Senior, I don't want any gift from you. The junior has a request." "Say." Junior wants to learn the method of refining immortal weapons from senior. Under the black robe of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, the corner of his mouth raised a slight arc. "A word is settled." After receiving a positive reply from the other party, Chen Daoxuan's confidence was high. With the help of the purple thunder skyfire of the triple tribulation fire, Chen Daoxian finally survived the third thunder tribulation, but for the fourth thunder tribulation, the purple thunder skyfire alone is not enough. However, Chen Daoxian has another whole card, that is, Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. If it is said that the purple thunder skyfire is to weaken the power of thunder and let Chen Daoxian survive the thunder, then the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic is to use its ability to quickly restore the soul to help Chen Daoxian survive the thunder. With the speed of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic to restore the soul, as long as the thunder power of Lei Jia does not instantly destroy his soul, he can quickly recover. This is Chen Daoxuan's biggest reliance on transcending the robbery. As for the astral art, to perform this immortal art requires the use of the star sword map. Chen Daoxian does not know whether it can be recognized by Lei Jie. If it is not recognized, it is self-defeating. Therefore, astral technique is just a pending option in his mind. Chen Daoxian would not take it seriously if he could use the astral technique to transcend the calamity, let alone the 8th level thunder tribulation, or even the 9th level thunder tribulation. Ray overseas. On Tianzun Mountain. Everyone was shocked and they saw that the thunder cloud formed by the gathering of thunder on Chen Daoxuan's head had not dissipated. This is. He's going to survive the 4th thunder tribulation. No way, the 4th thunder tribulation, how is this possible? Could it be that our era is really going to produce an extremely strong man? On Tianzun Mountain, the cultivators were all excited. Aside from a few people, there is no one who wants to go up to Tianzun on Tianzun Mountain and go down to a servant in Tianzun's mansion. No one wants to be destroyed by the world monster. This kind of hatred has nothing to do with everyone's status in the human race, but comes from the instinct of everyone in the blood to hope that the race can continue. The top of Tianzun Mountain. Gu Jian Tianzun's expression also became extraordinarily dignified. He said to himself, "Is it the 4th thunder calamity?" Compared with the ancient sword Tianzun, Wuhe Tianzun knows more about Chen Daoxuan's talent. After all, this one is a freak who has broken through from the 3rd layer of the world realm to the creation realm in just 10 years. It was 1,000 years faster than he expected. This kind of freak, with his tens of thousands of years of life, is also unheard of. Could it be that he really has the possibility to break that record? Wuhe Tianzun whispered. It's just that his voice was small, but it was still heard by the ancient sword Tianzun beside him. "That one, you mean him?" "Well, the first celestial venerable of the human race, Emperor Slaughter Celestial Venerable." Wuhe Tianzun nodded and said without hesitation. When Gu Jian Tianzun heard this, he looked at Chen Daoxian, who was sitting cross-legged in the Sea of Lei, and shook his head. "It shouldn't be possible, you know, Emperor Slaughter Tianzun is not only the first Tianzun of the human race after the ancient times, he was placed in the ancient times, is also the absolute first heavenly venerate." For this evaluation, Wuhe Tianzun very much agrees. Yes, that one, but there is an existence that has opened up another way. Another way. It sounds amazing and talented, but in fact, isn't it the last fight against the hopeless immortality? If the immortal way can be expected, why should another one be created? This road is difficult and dangerous, the road is rough, and the future is uncertain. How can people who do not really embark on this road can imagine it? Unfortunately, it still falls short. Speaking of this, Gu Jian Tianzin's eyes were extremely dim. Even with the talent of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, there is no way to go, and future generations dare not go. This is also the reason why no one dares to take the other side's path in the future. In addition, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is worried about misleading future generations, and all the inheritance of this path is brought into the grave. At this point, even if future generations want to study this path, there is no way to start. The practice of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan was also criticized by countless descendants of the human race. They said that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan disregarded the situation of the human race, abandoned the safety of the human race, and would rather take this inheritance into the grave than pass it on to future generations. This is also the reason why many human race heavenly venerates are reluctant to mention him after the death of Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. But Gujian Tianzuan, as the first Tianzuan of the human race in this era, knew that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan did this, and there must be his reasons. As for some rumors that he was selfish, Gu Jian Tianzuan even scoffed. For 470,000 years, any of the countless human race heavenly venerates may be selfish, but the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate will not. Because, he is the only one who has the possibility of becoming an immortal among countless heavenly deities, but he chose to give up. In the Sea of Thunder, Chen Daoxian has already begun his fourth thunder tribulation. As he had expected, the power of the fourth thunder tribulation was raised by another level compared to the third thunder tribulation. This time, even if his soul is strengthened and the power of thunder is weakened by the purple thunder skyfire, each thunder can still damage his soul by 20%. In other words, one thunderbolt can make Chen Daoxuan's soul close to serious injury, and 3 consecutive thunderbolts can make him fall into a coma and die. Obviously, if there are no other means, Chen Daoxian will never be able to pass this fourth thunder tribulation. Seeing this scene, Chen Daoxian was not in a hurry, and immediately recited the Hongmeng Enlightenment Sutra that he had recited for an unknown number of times. The road is silent. Even if Chen Daoxian was being watched by countless eyes and consciousness at the moment, they could not see the scriptures that Chen Daoxian was talking about. Chen Daoxian knew this for a long time. The Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic seems to be known only to him alone. Even if he wanted to teach it to Luo Li and the others, he couldn't do it at all. Dantian gas in the sea. The divine soul, which had been hit hard by the thunder, recovered almost in an instant. At the same time, the pure yang breath on Chen Daoxuan's soul instantly became stronger. Seeing this scene, Chen Daoxian was overjoyed. He knew that he had passed the fourth thunder calamity. Sure enough, just as he expected, the fourth thunder tribulation was passed safely. So far, Chen Daoxian has surpassed the first heavenly venerate of this era, Gujian heavenly venerate. Lay overseas, countless celestial beings like Wuhe Tianzuan inquired about the origin of Chen Daoxian. For the top heavenly venerate who is about to appear in the human race, anyone who has a heart for the human race heavenly venerate is excited and happy. Fourth thunder tribulation. Chen Daoxian opened his eyes and moved his muscles and bones. At this time, the voice of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion came again, "Would you like to take a break before continuing?" Saying that, a bottle of medicinal herbs instantly appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. This is. Chen Daoxian took the elixir, opened it, and said with a look of surprise, "Return to the immortal pill. This thing is not an ordinary elixir, but an elixir." Chen Daoxian never thought that in addition to the artifact refiners who can refine immortal artifacts, there are actually alchemists who can refine elixir. This gave him a new evaluation of the strength of the human race. This elixir is extremely precious. If you want to hit the fifth thunder calamity, you can take one to nourish your soul and go through the thunder calamity. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said slowly. It seems that he is even more nervous than Chen Daoxian about whether Chen Daoxian can survive the fifth thunder calamity. Although he didn't know why the other party cared so much about whether he could survive the fifth thunder calamity, Chen Daoxian still received his favor. He bowed his hands towards the position of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, and said respectfully, "Thank you for the pills, senior. No need to be polite." After the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said such a sentence, he remained silent again. Ray overseas. Gu Jian Tianzuan saw that the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion even took out the immortal pill, and he couldn't help laughing. This old guy Chuanbao is very stingy on weekdays, but he is more generous today. Wuhe Tianzuan shook his head and said with a smile, "You don't even think about who he is." Hearing this, Gu Jian Tianzuan seemed to think of something, and his eyes lit up. "You mean?" Wuhe Tianzuan pursed his lips, "I didn't say anything." "You guy." Gu Jian Tianzuan laughed out loud. But thinking about the origin of the Chuanbao Pavilion, and looking at the performance of the current Chuanbao Pavilion master at this time, Gu Jian Tianzuan felt that the possibility of his guess was getting bigger and bigger. If so, Gu Jian Tianzuan suddenly felt a fiery heat in his heart. In the Sea of Thunder. Chen Daoxian held the Huishan immortal pill in his hand, but did not take it immediately. Nonsense. His soul was not injured at all. Taking this elixir, wouldn't it be a waste of life and would be struck by lightning? Well, even though he's being struck by lightning right now. But elixir. It was the first time he had seen the elixir with his own eyes. Although this item was of no great use to him, in the future, whether it was for Luo Li, Fei Qinxue, or the Chen clan, it would be a peerless treasure to help him overcome the calamity. No matter how bad it is, Chen Daoxian can also give one to Wuhe Tianzuan, and the other party just has to cross the 8th thunder calamity. Wuhe Tianzuan has a great kindness for him, and Chen Daoxian is not someone who knows his kindness and does not repay it. Put away the elixir. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and began to experience the 5th thunder tribulation again. At this moment, everyone on Tianzuan Mountain held their breath, as if they were afraid of disturbing Chen Daoxian. Even Gu Jian Tianzuan couldn't help holding his breath. The 5th thunder robbery. Everyone said silently in their hearts. In the Sea of Thunder. The thundercloud formed by the thunder has turned into a pure black color. Even with the help of the world consciousness of Guangyuan realm, Chen Daoxian felt an unprecedented pressure, and under this pressure, he couldn't help urging astral art. Because he knew that with the power of the thunderclouds in front of him, there was no means that could give him a sense of security, except for the astral technique. This 5th thunder calamity is not only aimed at his mana and soul, but this thunder has even had an impact on his Taoism. See Chen Daoxuan's appearance. Gu Jian Tianzuan was a little worried. Looking back at the history of my human race, when I first crossed the calamity, there were many people who survived 4 consecutive thunder tribulations, but only the emperor who survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Dao Xan, but nothing outside can help you. He looked at Chen Daoxian and whispered. Wuhe Tianzuan saw this scene and remained silent. The 5th thunder tribulation is by no means easy, otherwise, for 470,000 years, there will not be only one person in the history of the human race who can do it. Boom! A beam of lightning directly poured into the top of his head from Chen Daoxuan's Baihui point, and then went straight to his Dantian Qi Si. Then, a huge thunderous sound came out. If it weren't for the space barrier between Guangyuan Leihai and the outside world, the entire Tianzuan mountain would be razed to the ground with this blow, even if there was a formation on Tianzuan mountain. What a terrifying thunder robbery! Even after the 5th thunder calamity, Wuhe Tianzuan still felt lingering fears when he saw Chen Daoxian crossing the calamity. The 5th thunder tribulation was Wuhe Tianzuan who felt that it was the most difficult of all the thunder tribulations. Because this time, the thunder tribulation is not only aimed at mana and soul, but also torturing the cultivator's Taoism. But they don't know that Chen Daoxian has risen from the smallest point after 2 lifetimes. As far as Taoism is concerned, he has never been afraid. In Chen Daoxuan's sea of consciousness, various illusions appeared. He saw that Uncle 13 did not wait for Tai Shinshui, sitting in his arms in the cave mansion of Qitong Mountain, looking at the bare Qitong Mountain outside the cave mansion. He also saw that Luo Li had reached the limit of her lifespan, but she was unable to break through to a higher cultivation level, so she sat in his arms. He also saw that the human defense line was captured by the world monsters, and the cultivators of the Chen family were slaughtered and swallowed by the world monsters. Countless tragic experiences related to him began to appear in Chen Daoxuan's sea of consciousness, as if it had really happened. Even though he knew that these were all illusions, Chen Daoxian couldn't help feeling sad and resentful. But no matter how sad and resentful he was, he kept a little clarity of Lingtai and did not sink completely. The Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, that he recited silently in his mouth, did not stop for a moment. I do not know how long it has been. The thunder cloud dissipated, and Chen Daoxian opened his eyes. There was only a tear in the corner of his eye. Far away. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion suddenly stood up, even ignoring the immortal artifact he was refining. He raised his head with tears in his eyes. 200,000 years. 200,000 years. Finally let the old man wait. The figure of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion disappeared instantly, and then, his figure appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. Seeing the sudden appearance of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, Chen Daoxian immediately bowed his hands to him. Junior Chen Daoxian, I have seen Senior. You, very good. Very good. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion patted Chen Daoxuan's shoulder heavily, choking on his words. He had so much to say, but didn't know where to start. The outside world has been rumored that the Chuanbao Pavilion existed in the ancient times and has continued to this era, but who can know that the history of the Chuanbao Pavilion is only 200,000 years old? The so-called inheritance from ancient times is just a rumor. In truth, Chuanbao Pavilion does not even have a long history of Qianyuan Jianzong. I said, if you can break his record, the old man will give you a big gift. But, I haven't broken his record yet. Chen Daoxian was a little puzzled. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion smiled and shook his head. Enough is enough. Enough? 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 507. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief. After 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, he has almost reached his limit. Although the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic can quickly restore his soul, the power of the 5th thunder tribulation is too terrifying, and every thunder can destroy more than 30% of his soul. Just one blow can seriously injure his soul, and 2 thunderbolts can make him dying. The 5th thunder calamity was so terrifying, and when he passed the 6th thunder calamity, wouldn't it be possible to damage his soul by more than 50% with a single blow? At that time, he had passed out, and he didn't even have a chance to recover by reciting the Hongmeng Enlightenment scripture silently. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian naturally did not dare to take risks. Although he didn't know how the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, Chen Daoxian knew that his accumulation in the creation realm was actually not deep. He was able to survive 5 thunder tribulations in a row, all relying on the 2 trump cards of Zi Lei Tianhua and Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. Of course, Chen Daoxian also has a stronger whole card, Astral Technique. However, the execution of the Astral Technique requires the star's kendo map. This technique is very likely to conflict with the thunder tribulation, and it will be self-defeating at that time. Besides, after 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, he can be regarded as equaling the record of the first celestial venerable of the human race. Chen Daoxian can foresee how much sensation his current behavior will cause to the outside world, which is undoubtedly contrary to Wuhe Tianzhen's low-key behavior. However, Chen Daoxian was not too worried. According to Wuhe Tianzuan, when his strength reaches the level of Silver Wing Tianzuan, there is no need to worry anymore. But he didn't know that Chen Daoxuan's real strength was no less than Silver Wing Tianzuan. The top of Tianzuan Mountain. Wuhe Tianzuan exhaled slightly. It's over. Ended. Gujian Tianzuan was overjoyed. Wuhe Tianzuan heard the joy in his old friend's words, and also smiled. this is a rare event for my human race in hundreds of thousands of years. Gu Jian, tell me, how should I train him? Naturally, it has to be cultivated well. Gu Jian Tianzuan thought for a while. I will hold a Tianzuan meeting later to discuss this matter together. Heavenly Venerate Conference. Wuhe Tianzuan was slightly startled. Isn't it too much to hold a Tianzuan meeting for a 5 tribulations Tianzuan? Gu Jian Tianzuan waved his hand. Wuhe, you don't have to worry about some criticism from the outside world. Whoever wants to get this kind of treatment will go through 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, heard. Wuhe Tianzuan was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed. Ha, what you said is very true, not far away. Seeing that Qin Dao Xian had survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, Ran Lingxi almost jumped up with joy. Sister Luo Li, have you seen it? He actually survived countless thunderstorms in a row. It's incredible. Seeing Ran Lingxi's excited appearance, Luo Li finally let go of the heart that Luo Li had been carrying. Compared to outsiders who care about Qin Daoxuan's achievements, only Luo Li can really care about Qin Daoxuan's safety. At this time, when Luo Li saw that Qin Daoxian finally passed the thunder tribulation safely, his joy was second, and no longer worried was the biggest feeling of Luo Li at this time. All this is thanks to Wuhe Tianzun's efforts to cultivate my husband. Luo Li said to Ran Lingxi with a smile. Hearing this, the joy on Ran Lingxi's face became even stronger. For the human race, every immortal city in the extraterritorial battlefield is not only a battlefield for the human race monks, but also an examination room for the heavenly venerates to select outstanding juniors. This is how Qin Daoxian was picked by Wuhe Tianzuan and sent to Tianzuan Mansion for training. However, when Wuhe Tianzuan chose Qin Daoxian, it was not because of his talent, but because of his immortal merits for Yaoguang City. Who knows, by mistake, Wuhe Tianzuan actually picked a peerless genius. In the Sea of Thunder. Qin Daoxian looked at the pavilion owner of the Chuanbao Pavilion wearing a black robe in front of him, and asked, Senior, what do you mean by the great gift? Seeing Qin Daoxuan's eager appearance, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said with a faint smile on his face, Didn't you say that you don't want the big gift from the old man, and only learn the method of refining fairy weapons from the old man? This. Qin Daoxian looked embarrassed. Seeing Qin Daoxuan's embarrassed appearance, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion stroked his beard and smiled, Don't worry, I will teach you the method of refining immortal weapons, and the old man will give you the gift that I promised you, but... Qin Daoxian looked at him quietly. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion continued, but this matter has to be discussed at the Tianzuan meeting. Heavenly Venerate Conference? Qin Daoxian was slightly startled. Even as a cultivator in the Fengyun world, Qin Daoxian had heard of the name of the Heavenly Venerate Conference. This meeting can be said to be the highest meeting that decides the important affairs of the human race. The minimum cultivation level of the participants must be the Daojun level of creation realm. Of course, with Qin Daoxuan's cultivation at this time, it is more than enough to participate in the Tianzuan meeting. However, it is said that the participants of the Tianzuan meeting only need to be at the level of Daojun in the creation realm, but those who are truly qualified to speak at the Tianzuan meeting must be high-level Tianzuan. In other words, the rest of the middle-level and low-level heavenly venerates and the Daojun of creation realm are all foils. However, Daojun of creation realm is the reserve for the Terran celestial lord, and the middle and low-level celestial lord is the top powerhouse of the Terran. They must know the situation of the Terran as soon as possible. In this way, the human monks can work together to fight the demons. Otherwise, the human race can't even unite internally, so don't talk about fighting the demons. Okay, let's go out first. You've been here for so long, I guess it's going to be a mess outside. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded. In this case, the junior will retire first. Go. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion waved his hand. Qin Daoxian also cupped his hands towards him, turned into a flash of light, and flew out towards Lei Haiwei. Fly out of the Sea of Thunder. Chen Daoxian rushed to Wuhe Tianzuan immediately and bowed to the other party and Gujian Tianzuan. I have seen Wuhe Tianzuan and Gujian Tianzuan. When Wuhe Tianzuan saw Chen Daoxian, the joy on his face could not be restrained. You must know that this is the arrogance of the human race that he personally selected. Isn't he honored? Gujian Tianzuan smiled and waved his hand. Fellow Daoist Chen, don't be polite, now you are also the Tianzuan of the human race, just call me and Guhe Daohao directly. Speaking of which, Dao Yu Chen, you haven't given yourself a Dao name, have you? Give yourself a name. Chen Daoxian was stunned. Seeing that Chen Daoxian didn't seem to know anything about this, Gujian Tianzuan explained with a smile, my human race Tianzan's Dao name, rather than a Dao name, might as well be called a nickname, an honorable name. Just like Wuhe, his Dao name is related to his practice, and my Dao name Ancient Sword is related to my fairy weapon. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian unconsciously glanced at the immortal sword that Gujian Tianzuan was carrying. Of course, there are also some people's Dao names, which are related to the names they have made, such as killing the emperor. Chen Daoxian couldn't help laughing bitterly when he heard the mention of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan again. He knew that in the future, more people would compare himself with the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate because he, like the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, was also a cultivator who had survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. However, although Chen Daoxian is not comparable to the strength of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan at the peak of the time, he asks himself that he is much stronger than the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan when he was also the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. In other words, Chen Daoxian does not believe that at the level of the 5 tribulations Heavenly Venerate, there are still people who can be stronger than him. After 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, Chen Daoxian had no time to feel how much stronger his strength had become. After all, although his mana, body and soul have undergone a transformation, his secret techniques and instruments have not been further cultivated. Chen Daoxian is not sure how much his strength can be improved. If he didn't use astral technique, Chen Daoxian felt that his strength had indeed crossed a large level. But if he used the astral technique, he felt that his strength would not be improved significantly. Because the power of astral technique has little to do with cultivation. In the past, his strength was his own creation realm Daojun's strength plus 1,806 star worm soldiers, but now, it is only the strength of Wuji Tianzuan plus 1,806 star Dao soldiers. The increase in strength is actually not an exaggeration. Of course, astral technique is the strongest trump card in Chen Daoxian's hands, and he won't use it unless he has to. Therefore, in the eyes of the outside world, Chen Daoxian has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row, and it is not an exaggeration to call it a leap to the sky. It is foreseeable that next, it is estimated that the threshold of the Wuhe Tianzuan mansion will be stepped on by the congratulatory people. Seeing Chen Daoxian's expression of contemplation, the two of them did not rush. Half an hour. Chen Daoxian raised his head and said, Senior Gujian, this junior hasn't figured out what kind of Dao name he should call. Wuhe Tianzuan smiled and said, it doesn't matter, you can think about the Taoist name slowly, maybe someone else will give it to you in the future. After speaking, he paused, compared to the Dao name, Daoxian, your mansion on Tianzuan Mountain needs to be established as soon as possible. That's right, the Tianzuan Mountain Mansion, even if it's a symbol of status, is an excellent place to practice. I believe you have experienced it. Gujian Tianzuan echoed, early build a mansion, and let your relatives and relatives behind you enjoy the help these treasures bring to your practice. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian's eyes lit up. Not to mention, the abyss of Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion has made Chen Daoxian jealous for a long time. He himself does not covet the land of the abyss, but his Chen family and the disciples of Qianyuan Jianzong need this treasure land. In the future, Chen Daoxian will even be able to reward the best disciples of the Northern Immortal League with the cultivation quota of Tianzuan Mansion. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but have a look of longing on his face. Enzuan Huangji. Now that he has been promoted to the realm of Tianzuan, the Xianhuang realm has officially become the realm of Tianzuan. Although compared with the creation realm, this Tianzuan realm has not changed much, but the potential of the Tianzuan realm is incomparable to that of Chen Daoxian when he created the realm. In other words, his heavenly venerate realm can expand again. You must know that his Xianhuang realm has been stuck in a diameter of more than 300,000 miles for a long time. After saying goodbye to the two heavenly venerates, Chen Daoxian immediately flew to Luo Li's side and looked at each other gently. Who knew this scene was interrupted by Ran Lingxi, who had no vision. Cough, stop looking at you two like that, you're going to be numb. Ran Lingxi said carelessly, that's right, Chen Daoxian, you should build Tianzhen's mansion next, right? Also, are you going to be a guardian of Xianqing City, or stay in Tianzuan Mountain to continue to practice, and in the future be an inspector of Tianzuan? Chen Daoxian knew that Xianqing guarding and inspecting Tianzuan in Ran Lingxi's mouth was like the difference between Wuhe Tianzuan and Ini Tianzuan. Generally, Tianzuan is naturally not qualified to be a patrol Tianzuan, because if you want to be a patrol Tianzuan, the most basic thing is that your strength must reach the level of an ordinary true immortal. With the cultivation base of Tianzuan, how can ordinary Tianzuan do it? Even if the human race has the high-grade fairy artifacts left by the ancient real fairy, it is difficult for a few Tianzuan to do it. However, this does not include Chen Daoxian. Because with the experience of the human race, the heavenly venerate who can survive 5 thunder tribulations in a row, the future strength is comparable to the true immortal is a sure thing. In fact, the heavenly venerate who can survive 2 thunder tribulations in a row will have the opportunity to become a patrol heavenly venerate in the future. You must know that the ancient sword Tianzuan, who is currently the strongest in the human race, only survived 3 thunder tribulations in a row. Ran Lingxi's question stopped Chen Daoxian. Judging from Chen Daoxian's wishes, he definitely wanted to be an inspector of Tianzuan. The fairy town guardian sounds very tall, but in fact, being a fairy town guardian is very boring. For example, Wuhe Tianzuan, for convenience, is guarding Yaoguang City all year round. If he wants to accompany his wife and children on weekdays, he can only send mana incarnations. As for the deity, he must sit in Yaoguang City all the time. The immortal cities on the battlefield outside the territory are not so much defensive immortal cities, but more like the cages of each human race. But for the stability of the human race, the heavenly venerates guarded these cages day and night, never retreating. Based on this alone, Chen Daoxian was in awe of the heavenly venerates of Liangjian. Compared with the low-level monks in Fengyun realm, these tribulation-transcending monks of the human race are worthy of the name of heavenly venerate. Facing Ran Lingxi's expectant gaze, Chen Daoxian shook his head and said, I haven't thought about it yet. It's okay. It's not urgent, you can think about it slowly, and you can ask my father, he has experience. Ran Lingxi said with a smile. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian and Luo Li looked at each other and laughed. For several days, the hustle and bustle of Tianzuan Mountain gradually ceased. Inner world. In an unknown heavenly venerate world. A monk in a white robe is sitting in a palace in this world, talking to a dark shadow. Why are you calling me now? Dark Shadow's tone was flat. Who knows that this human race Tianzuan wearing a white Taoist robe saw the shadow, and knelt down to the other side and said, Emperor, I want to report something. After a while, the shadow spit out a word, speak. Yes, the heavenly venerate wearing a white robe raised his head and said word by word, the human race has given birth to a heavenly venerate who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Heavenly Venerable who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. He Ying's voice couldn't help raising a level, then calmed down again, and said indifferently, Oh, is it another emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate? Only this time, can he get this honorable title again? Emperor calm down, Bai Pao Tianzuan knelt down, this son is only a 5 robbery Tianzuan now, how can he be compared with an emperor? What do you know? The black figure was furious. After a long while, the black figure said faintly, the emperor, this time, I won't give you any chance again. Seeing the appearance of the emperor, Tianzuan Bai Pao buried his head even lower. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 508. Guangyuan Realm. On Tianzun Mountain, a figure quickly flew towards the mountainside from the top of the mountain. Soon, the figure stopped in front of a Tianzun mansion on the mountainside. Ran Lingxi glanced at the Tianzun mansion, which covers a small area, and quickly walked inside. Stepping into Tianzun mansion, the scene in front of me suddenly changed. Like other Tianzun mansions on Tianzun Mountain, the newly built Tianzun mansion by Chen Daoxian also contains a complete cave inside. Not only that, compared with other newly promoted heavenly venerates, Chen Daoxian's cave in this heavenly venerate mansion was made by Jia Yuanzhu, who belonged to the Jinpeng general of the demon court. In terms of the area of the cave, it is no less than Wuhe Tianzun mansion. Wow! Approaching Chen Daoxian's Tianzun mansion, Ran Lingxi suddenly exclaimed. As the owner of Tianzun mansion, Chen Daoxian naturally learned of Ran Lingxi's arrival at the first time. During the period of breaking through to the supreme heavenly venerate, Chen Daoxian was extremely busy. Build Tianzun mansion, lead the Qin clan of Fengyun realm to run Xianhuang realm and Tianzun mansion, receive all Tianzun who come to congratulate, etc. During this period of time, the complicated things that followed made Chen Daoxian feel more tired than cultivation. Speaking of which, he has indeed been the boss for too long. Since the Qin family has been on the right track, he has been completely taken care of by Chen Daoyan. As for the Northern Immortal League, concubine Chen Xue helps him handle various affairs. It was because someone helped him with his miscellaneous matters that Chen Daoxian could focus more on his cultivation. But during this period, Fei Chen Xue was not around, and Chen Daoyan knew nothing about the Guangyuan realm. Chen Daoxian could only let her and Luo Li arrange for the Qin clan to run the Xianhuang realm. As for the affairs on the side of Tianzun mansion, Chen Daoxian was handling it all by himself. Especially the construction of Tianzun mansion and the reception of Tianzun from all sides who came to congratulate. Of course, busy is busy, and Chen Daoxian has indeed been reluctant to receive gifts during this time. Heavenly venerates from all sides congratulated him on 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, and naturally he would not come empty-handed. In fact, Chen Daoxian had received more than 10 pieces of the light immortal artifact during this period of time, and one of them was a mid-grade immortal artifact, which was higher than the heaven-shaking axe in his hand. This fairy weapon is called the Xuanwu Shield, which is an ancient fairy weapon with a tortoise shell-like appearance. I heard that this fairy artifact was made from the tortoise shell of a real fairy after beheading a real fairy monster in the ancient times, during the war between humans and monsters. As for why the name of Xuanwu was named, of course, it was just for the sake of listening. The real Xuanwu is not something that the human race of Fengyun realm can provoke. Ran Lingxi was amazed when Chen Daoxian suddenly appeared in front of her, which shocked her. Ah! Why are you so elusive? Ran Lingxi patted her chest in shock. Seeing that she was still so carefree, Chen Daoxian shook his head and said without defending, "Tell me, why did you come to see me? I've been very busy these days, and I don't have time to hang out with you." When Ran Lingxi heard this, she immediately shook her little head. "I didn't come to play with you, it was my father looking for you." 5 Rivers Tianzun. Chen Daoxian became serious, and he vaguely guessed why Wuhe Tianzun was looking for him. The top of Tianzun mountain. Wuhe Tianzun mansion. Chen Daoxian and Luo Li entered the gate of Wuhe Tianzun mansion together. The two were familiar with the road, and soon arrived in front of Wuhe Tianzun's cave. Immediately, a figure appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. It was Wuhe Tianzun. 5 Rivers Tianzun. Chen Daoxian saluted respectfully. Although it has been corrected many times, Chen Daoxian will still respectfully salute every time he sees Wuhe Tianzun. Over time, the 5 Rivers Tianzun will just let it go. Although Wuhe Tianzun said nothing, he was very satisfied with Chen Daoxian's way of respecting his predecessors. "Daoxian, don't be too polite." Wuhe Tianzun stepped forward and helped Chen Daoxian. and said, I called you over this time, you should guess why. Chen Daoxian nodded and said, is it because of the Tianzuan meeting? Exactly. Wuhe Tianzuan nodded, it took 3 years for Gu Jian and his parties to adjust for so long, and finally there is a chance to hold a Tianzuan meeting in Tianzuan City. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian knew that Gu Jian Tianzuan must have paid a lot for his own business in the past 3 years. There is no way, the Terran Heavenly Venerate is distributed in the entire outer battlefield. And the extraterritorial battlefield is extremely vast, and it takes a long time to inform the group of Heavenly Venerates in the extraterritorial battlefield. As for the communication talisman, it has no effect in the extraterritorial battlefield. In the extraterritorial battlefield, there are 2 fastest ways. The first is world teleportation. The second is to take the light boat between the major immortal cities. Although the speed of world teleportation is the fastest, it is impossible for any Tianzuan to anchor so many Xianqin coordinates. For every cultivator above the 5th floor of the world coordinates are limited. For example, Chen Daoxuan's Xianhuang realm, whose world scope has expanded to nearly 400,000 miles in diameter, can only anchor 3 world coordinates at the same time. The Tianzuan realm of other Tianzuan may have a larger scope and more world coordinates anchored, but it is not much more than the Xianhuang realm. Therefore, it is difficult to rely on the world transmission of Tianzuan realm to quickly deliver messages. In general, world teleportation combined with light boats is the most efficient way of communication. One can imagine how much Gujian Tianzuan has put in for him in the past 3 years. Wuhe Tianzuan said, for you, Gu Jian has made a lot of effort, you must remember his kindness. Chen Daoxian nodded quickly, yes, Tianzuan. Wuhe Tianzuan smiled and said, let's go to Tianzuan City together. Go to Tianzuan City. Before Chen Daoxian could answer, Ran Lingxi became excited, Daddy, Chen Daoxian, take me with you. Seeing Ran Lingxi clamoring to go, Wuhe Tianzuan spoiled, since you want to go so much, call your mother and sister, this time let's go together. Ran Lingxi's eyes lit up when she heard this, and she immediately ran away without caring about anything. This child. Watching Ran Lingxi's passing away, Wuhe Tianzuan smiled and shook his head. Chen Daoxian said with a smile, Fairy Lingxi has a straightforward personality, but I am very envious of you, Tianzuan. With no one left or right, Wuhe Tianzuan said with a slight joke, since you are so envious, you and your 2 Dao companions have not given birth to many more children. If you think that it is difficult for me to give birth to offspring, I can help you to give me a few children. A friend asked for some elixir. Chen Daoxian didn't expect Wuhe Tianzuan to give birth to him, and was stunned for a while. Wuhe Tianzuan sighed, don't think I'm joking with you, the direct descendants of Tianzuan have a high probability of having excellent cultivation geniuses. The descendants of the Heavenly Venerate you saw in Tianzuan Mountain are all very poor in talent. Chen Daoxian, you are the most talented cultivator I have ever seen. Even if the offspring you give birth to are less talented than you, there is a great possibility that they will become Heavenly Venerate. Given the situation of my human race, do you still think that giving birth to a child is your personal matter? These words made Chen Daoxian unable to utter a single rebuttal. In fact, it is not the first time that Chen Daoxian has been spawned. Every time he returns to Chen's house, as long as he meets Uncle 13, he will be spawned by him. Therefore, Chen Daoxian avoided Chen Xianhe several times in the Hui family, for fear that the other party would urge him to give birth to a child. Chen Daoxian is not against having children, but the current environment of the human race is too desperate, and he does not want his children to be born in a desperate environment. Chen Daoxian can go shopping with the world demon alone without hesitation, but he does not want his children to follow this path in the future. If he did this, he would be extremely irresponsible for his unborn child. Seeing that Chen Daoxian did not speak, Wuhe Tianzuan did not say more. After all, his relationship with Chen Daoxian was not close enough to interfere with each other's private affairs. Wuhe Tianzuan said these words, but he didn't want Chen Daoxuan's amazing talent to be buried. Just like the emperor slaughtered Tianzun, he did not leave any descendants. Between the two talking, the three escaped lights flew towards the two of them. It was Wuha Tianzun's Taoist companion and his pair of daughters. Seeing the three, Wuha Tianzun's eyes softened. He nodded to the crowd, "Let's go." This time, Wuha Tianzun directly used world teleportation to move everyone from Wuha Tianzun Mansion to Tianzun City. Obviously, the Tianzun realm of Wuha Tianzun has the coordinates of Tianzun City. In fact, most Tianzun will anchor Tianzun City as world coordinates. Because Tianzun City is the core of the giant formation under the ancient real immortals. Its importance is not even under the Guangyuan realm, and it is also known as the last portal of the human race. After crossing Tianzun City, it is the inner domain world, and after passing through the inner domain world, it enters the Phoenix meteor realm. It can be said that as long as the world monster breaks through Tianzun City, it will be a smooth river, and the human race will no longer have any defensive power. Whether it is Guangyuan realm or other heavenly venerate realms, they do not have any ability to resist the true immortal level demons. Of course, as the last portal of the human race, the defense of Tianzun City is also extremely powerful. If it is said that the main cities of other war zones in the extraterritorial battlefield, under the guard of the human race, can erupt with the combat power comparable to a powerful true immortal, and can only return with a feather. This does not mean that the human race can sit back and relax when they own Tianzun City. In fact, the reason why Tianzun City can burst out such a powerful force is all based on the giant formation arranged by the ancient real immortals. And the composition of this giant formation is the large and small immortal cities in the entire extraterritorial battlefield. As long as the world monsters pull out all these immortal cities, the Tianzun City of the human race will be like a tiger whose claws have been pulled out, and there will be no more threats. This is also the reason why the human race established the inspection system of Tianzun. The immortal city on the battlefield outside the territory must not be lost. Every time an immortal city is lost, the human race's defensive formation loses part of its power. Since the end of the ancient times, for 470,000 years, the human race has only completely mastered all the fairy cities in the era of Emperor Slaughter Tianzun. Before or after the era of Emperor Slaughter Tianzun, the human race never mastered all immortal cities. Especially now, a considerable part of the human race has fallen into the hands of the world demon. On the eve of the last Yaoguang City battle, an acropolis near Yaoguang City fell into the hands of the world demon. The only thing that is fortunate is that after the world monster captured the human race immortal city, it could not exert the power of the immortal city, otherwise the situation of the human race would be even more desperate. Wow, Tianzun City is so majestic. As soon as Ran Lingxi came to Tianzun City, all the buildings in the city attracted all her attention. Not only her, but even Chen Daoxian, who came here for the first time, was stunned for a moment after seeing the scene of Tianzun City. This is the most majestic fairy city he has ever seen, no one. What is even more terrifying is that this immortal city is actually a super-large immortal artifact. It is hard for Chen Daoxian to imagine what price the true immortals of the ancient human race paid for refining these immortal cities. However, Chen Daoxian was relieved when he thought that immortal Guangyuan had even abandoned the Dao fruit of longevity for the sake of the continuation of the human race. No matter how much you pay, how can you compare to immortal venerable Guangyuan? Sighing slightly, Chen Daoxian looked at Wuha Tianzun. Wuha Tianzun nodded knowingly, and said to his wife and children, "You guys go shopping in the city first, Daoxian and I still have important things to do." Hearing this, the Taoist companion Wuha Tianzun said warmly, "You all go to work, don't worry about us." Chen Daoxian and Wuha Tianzun nodded, and then the two figures disappeared in front of the three in an instant. Tianzun City. In a hidden cave, a majestic palace, like a terrifying beast, crawls on the ground. Around the palace, there are various formation restrictions, and what is even more terrifying is that these formation restrictions are all connected to Tianzun City. At this moment, even if a true immortal came to break in, he would be instantly banned by these formations and turned into fly ash. Qin Daoxian followed Wuhe Tianzuan, passed all the formation restrictions, and entered this giant palace. Entering the palace, Qin Daoxian saw rows of well-defined seats of different sizes. The seats at the top were the most massive. These seats were jet black, made of unknown metal, and had a width of 12 feet. Further down, the width of the seat is 9 zhang, 6 zhang, 30 zhang, and the largest number is 1 zhang. Wuhe Tianzuan explained, the 12 zhang seat is prepared for the inspection of Tianzuan, and the 9 zhang seat below is prepared for the high-level Tianzuan. Qin Daoxian nodded. The status of a monk in the human race is also determined by the level of strength. In the human race, the status of inspecting Tianzuan is the highest. Qin Daoxian noticed that there are only 27 seats in the entire human race. That is to say, the human race has only 27 heavenly venerates with true immortal combat power. This number is pitifully small compared to the demons in the real demon world. But this is the real heritage of the human race. If it weren't for this, the top human race would not be so desperate. Even in the era of slaughtering heavenly venerate, there were no more than 50 inspectors of the human race. It is very difficult to be a true immortal in the cultivation base of Tianzuan. Either the cultivator has mastered an incredible secret technique, or he has a powerful immortal weapon. In short, only if the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate has a very outstanding achievement, it is possible to have the combat power of a true immortal in the heavenly venerate cultivation base. The higher the level of battle, the more difficult it is to cultivate. From this point of view, it is already commendable that the human race can give birth to 27 inspectors. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 509. Soon, figures appeared on the seats in the palace. Qin Daoxian felt a little and found that most of the figures that appeared were incarnations of mana. Also, most of the heavenly venerates are sitting in the major immortal cities on the battlefield outside the territory, and their true bodies cannot return. If they want to participate in the heavenly venerate meeting, they can only use their magic power to incarnate. Qin Daoxian swept his consciousness and quickly found his own seat. He moved and sat down on a seat that was 6 feet wide. He is the heavenly venerate of the 5 tribulations, and these cultivations are among the heavenly venerates of the human race, belonging to the middle and upper reaches. After all, the high-level celestial beings are a minority, and the most numerous among the human race celestial beings are the low-level celestial beings who have not survived 3 thunder tribulations. As soon as Qin Daoxian took his seat, his eyes fixed on the 27 thrones that symbolized the highest status in the palace. Soon, the inspectors of the human race took their seats one by one. The one in the center is naturally the ancient sword heavenly venerate, who is known as the first heavenly venerate of the human race. Later, Qin Daoxian also saw the old acquaintance silver wing heavenly venerate. What surprised him the most was the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion is actually a patrol Tianzuan with combat power comparable to a true immortal. Qin Daoxian was surprised. As for the other human race inspectors, Qin Daoxian didn't know any of them. There is no way, he has just crossed the tribulation, even if he has crossed 5 thunder tribulations in a row, and is famous in the circle of the human race, but there will be no inspection Tianzuan to come to congratulate him. At least the current Qin Daoxian does not have this qualification. He just equalized the record of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, and he is not a new Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. With all the seats in the palace, the voice of the ancient sword Tianzuan resounded in the palace like a big bell. It's rare that our human race heavenly venerates can gather together. Why did I ask everyone to come here today, and everyone must know the reason? Gu Jian Tianzuan paused. 2 things, a happy event and a bad event. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion sighed, is there anything worse now? Gu Jian Tianzuan glanced at him, and then his voice became cold, of course there is. Everyone knows that the crisis that my human race is facing now, and at this critical moment, there are still some people who are hollowing out the defense line that my human race has set up in the extraterritorial battlefield. Who is so bold? Hearing this, a burly and hot-tempered high-ranking heavenly venerate stood up. I gave birth to him. Heavenly exalted fire, let go of his anger. Gujian Tianzuan waved his hand. Everyone knows that since most of the resources of the Phoenix Meteor realm are occupied by the monks in the inner domain, the recruiting order for the outer battlefield is only aimed at the Yuanshan Daojun of the Phoenix Meteor realm. But not long ago, I discovered that there were actually people who dared to blatantly cover up the Yuanshan Daojun of Fengyun realm and avoid the summons of Tianzuan city. Boom! This sentence immediately caused an uproar in the entire palace. Who is it? Who dares to be so bold? The summoning order from the Phoenix Meteor realm is only aimed at Yuanshan Daojun, and they are still evading the recruiting. It's too bold. Are they not willing to pay for the human race at all? Who shielded them? As far as I know, the recruitment is personally issued by Tianzuan city. Unless there is a high-level Tianzuan doing the tricks, how can other people help the Daojun of Fengyun realm to escape the recruitment? In the palace, doubts about the high-ranking heavenly venerate of the human race began to appear. Gujian Tianzuan saw that the heat was enough, waved his hand, and two figures were released from his sleeves. It was Xiao Yuhua and He Yinyan. Although the two were under the control of the ban, their mouths were not sealed. The first time He Yinyan was released, he looked towards the seating area of the high-level heavenly venerate. When he saw a familiar figure, he was overjoyed. Father, save me! Save me! When Jiuyu Tianzuan saw He Yinyan, who was captured by the ancient sword Tianzuan, his face sank immediately. At this moment, he was very angry. It is not that Tianzuan Jiuyu suspected that Gujian Tianzuan had made a mistake and wronged his son. What made him angry was that Gujian Tianzuan didn't tell him anything in advance. Until now, he didn't know that it was his son who shielded the Yuanshan Daojun of Fengyun realm and helped them escape from military service. For his son with poor talent, Jiuyu Tianzuan does not have much affection. All along, he has kept it in Tianzuan Mountain. Unexpectedly, the other party actually stabbed him in such a big basket this time, making him lose face in front of all the celestial venerables. What made him even more embarrassed was that this was still begging him for help. Shut up, Nizi! Jiuyu Tianzuan was burning with anger. At this moment, a mocking voice came. Who am I to be so daring? It turns out to be your son, brother Jiuyu. As expected, if there is a father, there must be a son. The speaker is the previous heavenly venerate Fire. Yuehua, are you looking for death? Heavenly venerate Jiuyu said in a cold voice. Enough! Gujian Tianzuan shouted, you two have so much strength, why don't you kill some monsters on the battlefield outside the territory? Gujian Tianzuan, as the first Tianzuan of the human race, is much stronger than the ordinary 8th Tribulation Tianzuan such as Jiuyu and Yunhua, and the two did not dare to refute his reprimand. 9 domains exist. Jiuyu lowered his head slightly. Gujian Tianzuan continued, He Yinyan is your son. He has helped Fenjianji Wuji Xianmen evade the recruitment of Tianzuan city to make huge profits. The evidence is conclusive. What should you do? Kill. Jiuyu Tianzan's eyes turned cold, and He Yinyan, who was restrained and controlled in mid-air, was still begging for mercy, but his body was beaten into nothingness by Jiuyu Tianzan's palm. God is dead. A mere mana incarnation can actually kill a primordial spirit Taoist with one palm. Below, Chen Daoxuan's eyes were slightly condensed when he looked at Jiuyu Tianzuan. The strength of this Jiuyu Tianzuan was probably very close to the level of a true immortal. What is even more frightening is the ruthlessness of this 9 regions heavenly venerate. You know, He Yinyan was his own flesh and blood, but he was killed by the 9 regions heavenly venerate without blinking an eye. Seeing this scene, Tianzuan Yunhua, who was originally going to choke with him, opened his mouth, but in the end he just bowed his hands to Tianzuan Jiuyu without saying anything. The other party has achieved this level, what else can he say? Can't Zhou Tianzun collude with He Yinyan just to covet the money of Wu Jixianmen? I am afraid that any cultivator in the palace will not believe this kind of words, and he is the first one who does not believe it. As a celestial venerable with the same cultivation base as the 9 regions heavenly venerate, Yunhua knows better than anyone what the 9 regions celestial venerable really wants. For the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, their biggest dream is naturally to survive the 9th thunder tribulation and break through to the realm of the Mahayana true immortal. But the chances of this dream coming true are almost nil. In addition, for the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, the most tempting thing is to go further and reach the level of human race inspection heavenly venerate. This idea is plausible. Whether it is with the help of top-grade high-grade fairy tools or with the help of fairy magic secret methods, there is always the possibility of realization. In fact, both Meteor Fire and Jiuyu are stuck on this last step. Once the 2 of them can take this step, the Terran will add 2 more inspectors. For this kind of existence, how does the mere promise immortal sect buy it? Not to mention bribing, that is, the entire Wuji Xianmen was packaged and placed in front of his Jiuyu Tianzuan, and he didn't even take a look at it. The 2 are not the same level at all. Only his son, who is not very talented and incompetent, would do such a thing that made the soldiers on the front line angry for this little money. Beside He Yinyan, Xiao Yuhua was shocked when he saw that He Yinyan was slapped into nothingness by the 9 regions heavenly venerate. He knew very well that He Yinyan was the son of the 9 regions heavenly venerate. Kill your own son. What does he count? At this moment, he knew that he might be doomed this time. Sure enough, Gujin Tianzuan said, Jiuyu, you can kill your relatives righteously, I admire very much. As he spoke, he changed his words, everyone, now that the bribe recipient is dead, what should the bribe giver do? Kill. 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 For a time, the screams of killing in the palace shook the sky. These people are fighting the front line, and there are still people in the back who dare to do such a cowardly thing. If this is not killed, once it spreads, the morale of the front line will be destroyed, and the human race will be in danger. It is good. Gujin Tianzuan nodded, in that case, pass on my decree, order. Wow! In the palace, all the monks sat upright. Order. Immediately, everyone involved in the Wuji Immortal sect will be killed, and the Wuji Immortal sect will be dissolved. With the voice of the ancient sword Tianzuan fell. In the middle of the palace, a golden decree appeared in the sky, and a line of words was written. In the end, a seal flew out from the hands of the ancient sword Tianzuan and was placed on top of the decree. Chen Daoxian looked at this decree, and he knew that Wuji Xianmen was completely finished. Originally, he planned to personally find an opportunity to demolish the Wuji Immortal Gate after breaking through the cultivation base of Tianzuan. Now that he thinks about it, he probably doesn't have to bother. As for the Situ family, the vassal family of Wuji Xianmen, Chen Daoxian was not worried at all. Compared with Wuji Xianmen, the Situ family has only one world realm 5th layer Taoist. Don't say that Chen Daoxian doesn't take this kind of opponent into his eyes. Even if he doesn't take the initiative, whether the opponent can resist the danger of the destruction of Wuji Xianmen is 2 things. You must know that Wuji Xianmen can occupy the most fertile land in Zhongzhou. In the past, when Wuji Xianmen was there, the Situ family naturally had to experience the wind and the rain. Now that the Wuji Immortal sect has been destroyed, the Situ family has such a huge interest, and there is no backing, there is no guarantee that other forces will not take advantage of the fire. With the strength of the Situ family, it may not be able to withstand this catastrophe. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if the Situ family survived this disaster, wouldn't Chen Daoxian still be there? With Chen Daoxuan's current strength, crushing the Situ family is not as simple as crushing an ant. After the decree was written, Gujin Tianzuan waved his hand. Xiao Yuhua, who was on the 3rd floor of the world realm, turned into nothingness and died. So far, the case of He Yinyan accepting bribes has come to an end. After dealing with this matter, the chill on Gu Jian Tianzun's face also dissipated. He smiled, "Okay, the bad things are over, let's talk about the good things now." Seeing Gu Jian Tianzun like this, everyone's expressions all relaxed. After all, no one does not want to hear good news. Everyone sits on the front line all year round, and the nerves are already tense enough. If you hear bad news, will you still be alive? This is also the reason why everyone was so angry when they heard the He Yinyan case. 3 years ago, my human race gave birth to a peerless genius. He actually survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations when he broke through the tribulation period, and directly tied the record of 200,000 years maintained by Emperor Slaughter Tianzun. What? 5 lightning tribulations in a row. How is it possible? When we crossed the calamity, we all passed through 1 thunder calamity, how can anyone survive 5 thunder tribulations in a row? Inhuman. Inhuman. It's right that my human race is immortal. In the palace, some people were amazed, some people were crying on their backs, all kinds of emotions, and so on. But in general, everyone is excited that the human race has given birth to a peerless genius who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Because everyone knows that the era of Emperor Slaughter Tianzun was the most stable and harmonious era for the human race. No cultivator wants to live in trembling all day long, even Tianzun. Doesn't Wuhe Tianzun really want to accompany his wife and children? The other heavenly venerates have a lot of descendants and disciples. Do they just want to sit in the immortal city outside the realm all day, and have nothing to return to the inner realm? Nobody wants this. Although the birth of an Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate will not change the weak situation of the human race. But at least, with this existence, the human race can protect itself. Even if the demon court unifies the real demon world, it is helpless in the face of the human race with the existence of the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. This is the deterrent force that a strong man who suppresses ethnic movements can bring. Although Gujian Tianzun is known as the first Tianzun of the human race in the current era, he is far from such a deterrent. Not to mention other things, one-on-one, he is not the opponent of the current demon court emperor at all. Not to mention that there are still many old antiques in the holy ancient demon realm whose strength is not under the demon court emperor. If the human race had the giant formations and immortal cities left by the ancient real immortals, they would have been slaughtered by the world demons long ago. A long time. The chatter in the palace slowly stopped. Seeing that everyone's emotions were calmed down, Gu Jian Tianzun continued, "This kind of arrogance, my human race should try my best to cultivate it. This is also the biggest purpose of my meeting of Tianzun this time." Hearing this, everyone nodded. Indeed, such a strong aptitude, coupled with the cultivation of the human race, no matter how bad it is, the future achievements will also be above the ancient sword Tianzun. If the other party can really compete with the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate in the future, then the human race will turn over. Therefore, I propose to open the immortal tomb and let him accept the inheritance left by the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. The inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzun? When did Emperor Slaughter Tianzun leave the inheritance? Yeah, didn't Emperor Slaughter Tianzun leave no inheritance? At this moment, everyone asked questions. The inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzun has always been a thorn in the hearts of the human race. The other party can be so powerful in the cultivation base of Tianzun, in the eyes of everyone, it is simply an incredible thing. But what makes it even more difficult for everyone to accept is that there is no inheritance left until death. Now, Gujian Tianzun actually told them that Emperor Slaughter Tianzun actually left a legacy, which makes everyone not angry. Everyone, listen to me. Gujian Tianzun said loudly, "It is true that Emperor Slaughter Tianzun did not leave any inheritance, but he left a sentence before his death. In the future, there are those who want to follow my path, and my corpse will be impressive." This. Has Emperor Slaughter Tianzun said this? I don't know. The only records recorded in the Zongmen's books are that Tianzun killing Di has not left any specific inheritance, but what the other party said before he sat down is not recorded in the books. Looking at a corpse, what can you see by looking at a corpse? All the gods shook their heads. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 510. The discussion stopped, and needles could be heard in the huge palace. Half an hour. On the inspection of the Tianzuan seat, a Tianzuan wearing a white robe said, "It is rare for the human race to give birth to a peerless genius who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row, and this seat agrees to open the immortal tomb." Hearing this, Qin Dao Xian looked at this strange heavenly venerate quite unexpectedly. The Tianzuan wearing a white Taoist robe felt Qin Daoxuan's gaze and nodded and smiled at him. This is Ling Yu Tianzuan. Ling Yu Tianzuan is the leader of the heavenly sect. Just when Qin Dao Xian was puzzled, Wu Ha Tianzan's voice appeared in his sea of consciousness. Heavenly sect. Qin Daoxuan's mind immediately appeared in this top force named after the Taiyin sect. In comparison, the Jiang family, which was once unattainable in Qin Daoxuan's eyes, was not worth mentioning when compared with Zhangtian's sect and Taiyin sect. Because the strongest ancestor of the Jiang family was sitting 3 seats away from Qin Dao Xian. During the Tianzuan meeting, the strongest contemporary Jiang family saw Qin Dao Xian looking at him, and nodded friendly to him. Nowadays, among the people who are well informed, who does not know that Qin Dao Xian is the peerless genius who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row? The strongest heavenly venerate of the Jiang family is only a heavenly venerate of 6 tribulations. Although the other party has gone through 1 more thunder calamity than Qin Dao Xian, the potential of the 2 sides is 108,000 miles away. How dare the Jiang family neglect this existence who is destined to stand at the peak of the entire human race in the future? If it wasn't for Qin Dao Xian who had been closing the door to thank guests for the past few years after completing the thunder tribulation, Qin Dao Xian would only meet the other party unless the heavenly venerate with a great background visited him. A family like the Jiang family, which is not ranked among all the top forces, is very self-aware and does not move up. Because the Jiang family knew that even if they came to visit Qin Dao Xian, they would definitely not be able to see this arrogant human race, so they simply didn't make fun of themselves. With Ling Yu Tianzuan speaking, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said, "I also agree to open the immortal tomb." Originally, Ling Yu Tianzuan agreed to open the fairy tomb, and everyone didn't feel anything, but when they heard that even the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion agreed to open the fairy tomb, everyone's complexion finally changed. Even Chuanbao Pavilion has agreed to open the immortal tomb. It seems that the top heavenly venerates of my human race are indeed very optimistic about this human race heavenly chosen. Nonsense. A peerless genius who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row, no matter how bad the future is, he is no worse than inspecting the heavenly Lord. If the other party can really get the inheritance of the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate, it will be amazing. Inside the palace, everyone whispered. I also agree to open the fairy tomb. Heavenly venerate Jiuyu said coldly. Seeing that Tianzuan Jiuyu agreed to open the immortal tomb, Tianzuan Yunhua immediately said, this seat also agrees. Humph. Jiuyu Tianzuan snorted coldly, unwilling to pay attention to him. I also agree to open the fairy tomb. This is the voice of Wu Ha Tianzuan. With the opening of many inspectors and high-ranking gods, gradually, there were more and more voices in the palace agreeing to open the immortal tomb. In the end, the voices all joined together. That is to agree to open the fairy tomb. Seeing this scene, Qin Dao Xian couldn't help being touched. The immortal tomb is the cemetery where the monks who died in war or those who had great military exploits sat down. You must know that human monks die in battles outside the territory, and it is generally difficult to find bodies. Because the moment the monks were killed by the world monsters, most of them were swallowed by the world monsters. As for the monks who had great military exploits and died, there were very few monks in the history of the human race. As a certain Terran heavenly venerate said, the ultimate fate of the Terran strong is to die on the battlefield outside the territory. Speaking of which, there are very few people who can live to the limit of lifespan. When a cultivator reaches the transcending tribulation stage, every time he passes through a thunder calamity, he can gain an extra 10,000 years of lifespan. It is reasonable to say that the heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations has a full 90,000 years of lifespan. But since the end of the ancient times, in the history of the human race, there is only one person who can live to 90,000 years of lifespan, good. Looking at the rising and falling voices in the palace, Gu Jian Tianzuan nodded, then opened the fairy tomb. Say it. In the void of the palace, another golden decree appeared. After the decree was condensed, the golden seal flew out from the hands of the ancient sword Tianzuan and was printed on the decree. So far, the decree is complete. After the two things were said, in the palace, one after another mana incarnation dissipated directly, leaving only a few real bodies of Tianzuan. Among them, there was the Zhang Tianjiao sect who was the first to speak out in support of Qin Dao Xian. Ling Yu Tianzuan nodded kindly to Qin Dao Xian, and then disappeared into the palace. With the disappearance of one after another, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion suddenly appeared in front of Qin Dao Xian. Follow me. After the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion left such a sentence, he waved his sleeves and took Qin Dao Xian away from the human race discussion palace. Tianzuan City. The main pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion. Different from what Qin Dao Xian imagined, the main pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion is not in Guangyuan realm, nor is it in the Tianzuan realm of the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion, it is just set up in Tianzuan City. This also means that, in the eyes of the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion, Tianzuan City is the safest place for the human race. If Tianzuan City is broken, there will only be a countdown to the destruction of the human race. Along the way, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said nothing. Qin Dao Xian didn't ask any questions. The first humanoid refiner had promised him a great gift, and he also promised him to teach him how to refine immortal weapons, but all these promises were not fulfilled. Qin Dao Xian wanted to come, this time. Did this person come to fulfill his promise? I didn't expect that Gu Jian actually thought the same as I thought. Walking into the Chuanbao Pavilion, it took a long time for the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion to say such a sentence. The main pavilion of the Chuanbao Pavilion is the same as the major sub-pavilions, and its interior is also a cave world. The only difference from other sub-pavilions is that this cave world seems to be huge and somewhat unexpected by Qin Dao Xian. Do you think it's big? The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion turned his head and looked at Qin Dao Xian. Qin Dao Xian nodded. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion smiled and said, it was created by the Jia Yuanzhu left over by a true immortal level world demon who was beheaded by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. True immortal level Jiuanzu. Qin Dao Xian exclaimed. This is the second true fairyland that Qin Dao Xian has ever seen. Unlike the true immortal origin realm he first saw in the true demon realm, the true immortal origin realm was obviously left over from the ancient times. However, the real immortal source realm in front of him was left by the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan who killed the world demon, which is undoubtedly much closer in time. What's more, it was a celestial venerable who killed the true immortal level world demon. It is rumored that the inspection Tianzuan can match the true immortals, and the ancient sword Tianzuan has the combat power to kill the real immortal level world demon. But these are all rumors of the human race. The inspection Tianzuan can match the true immortal level Tianzuan. Qin Dao Xian has witnessed it with his own eyes, and it is true. But Gu Jian Tianzuan can kill the real immortal world monster, he has never seen it. Besides, there is a huge gap between the true immortal level world demons. Can the old antiques of the ancient demon domain and the real immortal level demons who have just broken through have the same level of strength? Obviously not. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion asked, do you know who created Chuanbao Pavilion? Hearing this, Qin Dao Xian had a faint guess in his heart, and he tried to reply, could it be that this pavilion was created by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan? Exactly. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion nodded, Chuanbao Pavilion Chuanbao Pavilion. For so many years, the meaning of our Chuanbao Pavilion's existence is for it, talking. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion waved his hand. I saw the whole cave began to shake violently. You must know that as a real fairy level Jiuanzu, the world of the cave has shrunk a little compared with the original Riaoxianyuan, but compared to Qindaoxuan's Xianhuang realm, I don't know how many times larger. Such a cave world shakes, one can imagine how terrifying it is. But Qin Daoxian and the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion are extraordinary people, let alone a cave world shaking. Even if this cave world explodes in front of him, it won't hurt them both. Coming. Qin Daoxian said silently. In his consciousness perception, deep in the core of this cave world, there is a piece of debris that is tumbling and rushing out of the formation deep in the core. Boom! With a loud bang. A white light rushed out from the depths of the ground. As soon as Bai Guang rushed out, he was about to break through the air, but unfortunately, in this cave world, the formation arranged by the Emperor's slaughter Tianzuan was left. Immediately, the entire cave world became extremely dim, and the golden crow fragments in the sky also became bleak. Next moment, a chain of chains stretched out from the void, directly binding the white light in place. It was only then that Qin Daoxian could see exactly what this white light was. This is a fragment. Qin Daoxian murmured, his tone full of disbelief. It is the magic weapon used by the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate in the world. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion didn't use the word utensils, but used magic weapons. Qin Daoxian once again looked at the fragment in the void that was entangled by countless chains. It was still difficult for him to imagine that this thing was actually the weapon of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. It's not that Qin Daoxian thinks this treasure is of low rank. In fact, in Qin Daoxuan's consciousness, this treasure is of higher rank than all immortal tools he has ever seen, including his star sword Dao map. In other words, the rank of this treasure is higher than that of the top-grade immortal artifact. But here comes the problem, even if it is very difficult for the 8 Tribulations Heavenly Venerate to use the high-grade immortal artifact, now he can't use the higher-rank immortal artifact for Qin Daoxian. Seemingly seeing Qin Daoxuan's doubts, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion continued to explain, you don't have to worry about not being able to use it, as long as you can get the inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, you can definitely use it. The pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion is very determined. But thinking that this is also a disciple of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, Qin Daoxian was relieved. That Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate is so fierce, maybe it is because of this treasure. Qin Daoxian was thinking that the fragments in the void had a new change. I saw that under the suppression of the entire cave world formation, the violently trembling fragments gradually quieted down and turned into a giant axe, lying across the void. This is... Qin Daoxian felt the breath from the giant axe, and his heart trembled suddenly. This is not a fairy weapon, it is a spiritual treasure. In the Wan Xinghai inheritance space. Under the laurel tree. A Taoist man in white was holding a black piece in the forehand, and there was no one on the other side of the chessboard. He was actually playing chess with himself. This step, Mu ran, the white-robed Taoist raised his head abruptly, he stretched out his fingers and pinched it, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Have you finally got it? Immediately, the white-robed Taoist shook his head, and with a pop, he dropped the black chess piece. Tianzuan City. The main pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion. Qin Daoxian escaped with a flash of light and flew to the side of the giant axe trapped by the chains. He stretched out his right hand and firmly grasped the giant axe in his palm. Qin Daoxian looked at the giant axe carefully, but did not find any pattern on the giant axe, as if the giant axe was born from nature. Qin Daoxian tried to inject his magical power into the giant axe, but no matter how much mana Qin Daoxian injected, it was like a mud cow entering the sea, and the giant axe did not respond at all. This. Qin Daoxian was stunned. Even if this giant axe is a spiritual treasure, he will not move at all if he injects mana so desperately. After all, he is now a 5 Tribulations Heavenly Venerate. At this time, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion also flew over and said, if you want to motivate it, you must obtain the inheritance of the Emperor's slaughter heavenly venerate. What's its name? Qin Daoxian couldn't help asking. I only know that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan calls it the heaven opening axe. Open the axe? Pangu axe? Bullshit. Qin Daoxian's first reaction was nonsense, and besides, the Pangu axe was the first divine weapon to open the sky, and it was broken into 3 innate spiritual treasures as early as after the Pangu opened the sky. Wait, the Pangu axe is broken. Faintly, Qin Daoxian had some guesses about the origin of this fragment. Could it be that the Pangu axe not only shattered into 3 pieces, which also explained why the Emperor killing heavenly venerate called it the opening heaven axe? Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan wouldn't give a random name to a lingbao, even though this lingbao is only a low-grade lingbao. As Qin Daoxian held the handle of the giant axe, all the chains in the void shrank back. At this moment, the opening axe was quietly held by Qin Daoxian and no longer struggled. But Qin Daoxian was also unable to drive the other party. Inheritance of Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. For the first time, Qin Daoxian became very interested in a Tianzuan inheritance. Originally, in Qin Daoxian's view, no matter how amazing and brilliant the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan was, his inheritance could not be compared with the inheritance of the upper realm. Qin Daoxian mastered the astral art. I don't know how big the background is, how can he see the inheritance of a Tianzuan? Even if this heavenly venerate is called the first heavenly venerate of the human race. But this so-called human race's first heavenly venerate is only the human race's first heavenly venerate in the Fengyun realm. Looking at the heavens and the world, what is the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate? But now, Qin Daoxian doesn't think so. If this axe is really a fragment of the Pangu axe, then the inheritance of this Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate is no trivial matter. If he can use this Pangu axe, his inheritance must be unique. Of course, what is unique is what is unique. If it is said that the inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan can be compared with the inheritance of Wan Xinghai, Qin Daoxian still does not believe it. After all, the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate cultivation base is there, and the limitation of the heavenly venerate cultivation base is destined to not be too high for this inheritance. Unless Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, like Qin Daoxian, also obtained the inheritance of the upper realm. But as far as Qin Daoxian knew, the only known inheritance of the upper realm in Fengyun realm was Wan Xinghai. Moreover, the human race has also sent many human race talents to Wangxinghai for hundreds of thousands of years to receive inheritance. Among them, there are many like Qin Daoxian who have obtained the astral technique or other supreme inheritance, but without exception, these people are not allowed to enter. Even Qin Daoxian, with the help of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, exhausted 3 inheritance opportunities before he started to practice astrology. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 511. Inner Domain. A world that exudes loneliness and desolation. Looking from a distance, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but say, is this the tomb of the immortal? The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion nodded, go in. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian took a deep breath and flew towards the lonely world in front of him. If you are not mistaken, the world in front of you should be the real fairy world left by an ancient real immortal after the fall. Unlike Guangyuan realm, which is full of vitality, this real immortal realm has been completely deserted. The monks cannot cultivate and can only become the cemetery of the dead. Just before Qin Daoxian was about to enter the immortal tomb, an old man suddenly appeared in front of him. Qin Daoxian knew that this old man was the tomb keeper who was explained by the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion along the way. He took out the decree issued by the ancient sword Tianzuan from the storage ring and handed it over. The old man took the golden decree, checked it, and nodded, go in. Thank you, senior. Qin Daoxian bowed his hands to the opponent. Although he knew that the immortal tomb had a tomb keeper, he did not expect that the old man in front of him was actually a heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations. Just as Chen Daoxian entered the cemetery, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion suddenly appeared beside the old man. "Isn't this the person you chose, junior brother?" The old man said calmly. "Hey, I don't know if this move will hurt him. He is so talented, maybe there are other hopes. The path of the ancestor is a dead end after all." "Other hope? With the situation of my human race, there is no other hope." The old man glanced at the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. "Junior brother, it's not your style to be hesitant." The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion sighed. "How can such a thing be decisive?" Hearing this, the old man looked impatient and waved his hand. "This is the matter, I should go to the battlefield outside the territory to fight, I don't know what to guard this broken tomb. And dare not obey the orders of the ancestors." When the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion complained to the old man, he only smiled bitterly. Hearing this, the old man said nothing and disappeared in front of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. Entering the immortal tomb was decidedly different from what Chen Daoxian imagined. Although there are many cemeteries here, in front of most of the tombs, there are only inscriptions and burial mounds, and there are no monks' bodies. Moreover, these tombs are all old, at least tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. In other words, this immortal tomb has not been opened for a long time. Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think that in the 470,000 years of the human race's struggle against the demons, the human race's blood from the beginning to the exhaustion at the end can be seen from the tomb of this fairy tomb. In the early years, the human race monks also had the idea of building an inscription grave for the war-dead Peos, but later, more and more human race monks died, and the human race gradually became numb, and no longer built tombs for these heroic spirits. Despair shrouded every high-level human race. The monuments with no inscriptions and no words silently confided the cruelty of the war between the human race and the demons over the past 470,000 years. Chen Daoxian fully expanded his consciousness and carefully searched this real fairyland. After a long time, he finally found several graves with bodies. There. Chen Daoxian opened his eyes suddenly, and he found the cemetery of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. The figure was blurred for a while, and Chen Daoxian disappeared in place. Emperor Slaughter Tianzun's cemetery is not as luxurious as Chen Daoxian imagined. On the contrary, the other party's cemetery is very simple. There was only one cave that was modeled after the residence in front of him, and the other's body was placed in the cave. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and walked into the cave step by step. Emperor Slaughter Tianzun's cave was not deep, and Chen Daoxian quickly walked to the body of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. How can that be? The first time Chen Daoxian saw the opponent's body, he felt extremely shocked. Because the corpse of the other party has gone through 200,000 years, and it is actually lifelike, as if it had just died. You must know that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is not a real immortal, he is just a Tianzuan. Without immortals, the corpse will slowly decay with the passage of time, and this process is only a matter of time. 200,000 years, enough to make the body of any Tianzuan rot. But the body of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan in front of him still maintains a lifelike appearance, which proves that the body of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is much stronger than the ordinary Tianzuan, even not inferior to the Mahayana true immortal. This inference shocked Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian had seen the corpse of a true immortal. You must know that Qin Zhan had a corpse of a true immortal from the upper realm in his hands. After the cultivator broke through to the Mahayana true immortal, the immortal body transformed into the immortal body. At this point, the cultivator's body was completely freed from the shackles of time. But what happened to this Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan? Chen Daoxian couldn't help but fell into contemplation. Look at the corpse. Chen Daoxian muttered the words of the ancient sword Tianzuan. The meaning of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is that his inheritance secret is hidden in his corpse. After thinking for a while, Qin Daoxian knelt down towards the corpse of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, bowed his head respectfully, and said, "Senior, I am offended." "Say it." Qin Daoxian sat cross-legged in front of Emperor Slaughter Tianzun's corpse, and his consciousness invaded the other's corpse. The first position he probed was the sea of consciousness of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate. When Qin Daoxian ventured into the sea of consciousness of the corpse of a true immortal, his cultivation base was still very weak, and his spiritual consciousness was also very weak. If it wasn't for the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, he might have been lost in the sea of consciousness of the true immortal. But now it's different. Qin Daoxian's consciousness is already many times stronger than in the past, and now it is effortless to investigate the sea of consciousness of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. But the result surprised Qin Daoxian. This. Where is the sea of consciousness of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate? Qin Daoxian was stunned. He found that the sea of consciousness of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan actually disappeared, or that the other party did not have the sea of consciousness at all. However, how is this possible? How could the cultivator not have a sea of consciousness? Seemingly thinking of something, Qin Daoxian couldn't wait to check the other party's dantian again. The result was exactly as he guessed, and the other party was not angry. There is no sea of consciousness, no sea of qi, this is still a monk, this is still a cultivator. Taking a deep breath, Qin Daoxian began to carefully investigate the body of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. This time, he finally found the difference between the other's body and his own. His physical body is not only pure flesh and blood, but also contains changes in divine soul and mana, which makes his physical body into a very special state. Qin Daoxian said silently. He didn't know how to describe the change. Cultivators cultivate immortals, and what they cultivate is mana, spirit, and flesh. But Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has completely mixed the three together, regardless of each other. No wonder, they all said that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has taken a different path from all monks. Now, a serious problem is in front of Qin Daoxian. Does he want to go this route? At this moment, Qin Daoxian's heart was beating violently, and for the first time he felt a little diffuse. When people face a major choice, they will have this kind of emotion similar to Qin Daoxian, especially what he has to make is a choice related to the road. I do not know how long it has been. Qin Daoxian suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes regained firmness. He decided to choose this path. The reason is very simple, because this road is strong enough. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan alone can suppress the world monsters for tens of thousands of years and dare not invade the frontier of the human race, which shows the horror of his strength. Besides, although the path of immortality is taken by many monks, it is not the only path of cultivation. Cultivation of monks is essentially a way of comprehension. Who can say that the path taken by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is not the great way to heaven? Besides, what really made Qin Daoxian decide to take this path was the Pangu axe in his hand. If Qin Daoxian guessed correctly, the Pangu axe passed down to him by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan should be a small fragment of the real Pangu axe from the Great Pangu. But the key point is that Qin Daoxian can't use his mana at all, but Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan can use it, which proves that the Pangu axe recognizes the power of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan more than mana. A word suddenly appeared in Qin Daoxian's heart to prove the Tao with strength. Don't cultivate mana, spirit, and flesh, but only cultivate the divine body that combines the three. The more Qin Daoxian thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible, and naturally he made up his mind. Besides, even if you follow the path of immortality, with the environment of the Phoenix meteor realm, it is hopeless to pass the ninth thunder tribulation and become a Mahayana true immortal. Although Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan failed, it did not mean that Qin Daoxian would also fail. After all, he is the only one who has traveled the path of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, while the immortal Tao has been proved by countless monks that he cannot continue. How to choose in this situation is self-evident. Thinking of this, the comprehension stars in Qin Daoxian's sea of knowledge ignited again, and his comprehension also soared. 10 times, 100 times, 300 times. Chen Daoxian didn't stop until his comprehension was increased to 300 times. With the blessing of 300 times of comprehension, Chen Daoxuan's analysis of the divine body of slaughtering Emperor Tianzuan became faster in an instant. He found that the divine body of the emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate was not a simple combination of fleshly body, mana, and divine soul, but that the three were combined according to special rules. And this rule is the avenue. Realizing this level, Chen Daoxuan's excited soul trembled. For the first time, he knew, Chao Wendao, what it was like to die in Shiku. Flesh, mana, soul, the avenue. Chen Daoxuan's eyes became brighter and brighter, more and more. This is the divine body, my way is nothing but a request. That's what it means. Just when Chen Daoxian was struggling to realize the divine body of the emperor killing heavenly venerate, the outside world quietly changed. Tianzuan City. Gujian Tianzuan is sitting in the fairy city. For countless years, Gujian Tianzuan has been sitting in Tianzuan City, and he has hardly left. In fact, with the geographical location of Tianzuan City, Gujian Tianzuan does not have to be so careful. Because Tianzuan City is located in the innermost part of the extraterritorial battlefield, the world monster wants to invade Tianzuan City on a large scale. Only by removing the outermost immortal city in the extraterritorial battlefield can they attack Tianzuan City step by step. The outermost war zone of the extraterritorial battlefield is precisely the Jiu war zone where Fei Chenxue served. The garrison war zone is also the war zone most frequently invaded by world monsters on the battlefield outside the territory. In comparison, the B3 war zone where Chen Daoxian had stayed before was considered relatively peaceful. On this day, when Gujian Tianzuan closed his eyes and meditated, a mana avatar quickly appeared in front of him. Gujian opened his eyes and quickly stood up. Lu Feng, why are you here? This Rufeng Tianzuan is not someone else, but the guardian Tianzuan of the main city of the 9 war zone. Seeing Gujian Tianzuan, Rufeng Tianzuan said anxiously, Gujian, something big happened. After listening to Tianzuan Rufeng's narration, Gujian Tianzan's face became completely gloomy. The world monster has invaded in an all-round way. Hearing this news, even with Gujian Tianzan's cultivation base, he only felt dizzy. How could they, how dare they? Gujian Tianzan's face was extremely ugly. Don't the demon court emperor think that even if they use the power of the entire demon court to destroy my human race, will the demon court lose its power to unify the real demon world? This is the most incomprehensible part of Gujian Tianzuan. Doesn't the demon court want to unify the real demon world and then destroy the human race? Why did the opponent suddenly change their strategy? Is it? Gujian Tianzuan faintly thought of a possibility. Is the other party afraid of Chen Daoxian, the arrogance of the human race who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row? However, based on his understanding of the demon court emperor, it is unlikely that the other party will change the entire demon court's strategy for the sake of one person. Besides, even if the demon court forcibly takes down the human race, it will inevitably lose the strength to unify the real demon world. This is absolutely unacceptable to the demon emperor who has the ambition to unify the real demon world and the Phoenix realm. But the other party did do this, and he did it very decisively, directly overwhelming the army. Ancient sword. Ancient sword. Seeing Gujian pondering, Tianzuan couldn't help but interrupt, let's send more reinforcements. With the defense of my garrison 9th war zone, I won't be able to stop the demon court for long. Add reinforcements. Gujian Tianzuan struggled in his heart. In fact, even if all the inspections of the human race are sent over, how much threat can it pose to the demon court? The answer is not much threat at all. The 27 inspectors of the human race are like heavenly venerates, the strong ones are like ancient sword heavenly venerates, and the weakest are comparable to ordinary true immortal level world demons. But can the 27 true immortal level combat power reverse the situation in the 9th war zone? Bullshit. With the power of Yaoting, it is almost a sure thing to fully invade the Jiu war zone, and the Jiu war zone will fall. But Gujin Tianzuan is unavoidable. If you don't go to the rescue, Yaoting can take down the 9th war zone without much effort, and eat it like this, then the 8th war zone and the 7th war zone. In the end, when the Yaoting army attacked Tianzuan city, there would not be much damage. In this way, not only will the demons be able to take down the human race, but they will also have the energy to continue taking down the real demon world. Therefore, the human race must fight against it, and even if the entire 9 war zone is lost, they must beat the opponent severely. The human race must let the demon court know that even if they can take down the human race, they will be full of blood. Without this ruthlessness, the human race is really fierce this time. Thinking of this, Gu Jian Tianzan's eyes became solemn. At the same time, on Tianzuan Mountain in Guangyuan realm, the mana incarnation of Gujian Tianzuan flew out of Tianzan's mansion, and soon, the voice of Gujian rang in the ears of the other 26 inspecting Tianzuan. Everyone, the demon court is coming. Come to Tianzuan city. On the Tianzuan mountain, the inspecting Tianzuan heard the voice of the ancient sword Tianzuan, and his face changed suddenly. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 512. Tianzuan City. One after another powerful breath gathered towards Tianzuan City. Inside the human race palace, the mana incarnations of Gu Jian Tianzuan and Rufeng Tianzuan were already waiting outside the palace. With the passing lights flying, the anxious look on the face of Lufeng Tianzuan finally eased a little. In any case, the human race still has 27 patrolling Tianzuan, and the human race also has a line of defense built by immortal cities. Everyone. Seeing that all the people had arrived, Gujian Tianzuan didn't talk nonsense, and said directly, "There is news from Tianzuan Rufeng. Yaoting has assembled a large army and fully invaded the Jiu war zone." Rufeng Tianzuan added, "This time, the demon court is aggressive, and just outside the main city of my garrison 9th war zone, there are more than 50 true immortal level demons gathered." What? More than 50 true immortal level demons? Is Yaoting planning to fully invade our human race? Isn't the demon court still unified in the real demon world? Hearing the words of Tianzuan Rufeng, everyone was talking about it for a while. Everyone, now is not the time to speculate on the thoughts of the demon court. The 9th war zone is in jeopardy at this moment, and once the 9 war zone falls, the defensive power of our human race will weaken a bit. If this goes on, Yaoting will even be able to take down my human race without breaking a sweat. Humph. There's no reason. Yaoting is stronger than my human race, but if you want to easily take down my human race, you have to break a few teeth. That is. Seeing the excitement of the crowd, Gu Jian Tianzuan nodded secretly. At this moment, it is indeed the most critical moment for the human race. In the past, the war between the world demon and the human race was all about boiling frogs in warm water. They used the method of demon waves to continuously invade the immortal cities of the human race. Few world monsters have attacked the entire war zone of the human race in an all-round way like they are now. You must know that no war zone of the human race on the battlefield outside the territory includes a main city and a large group of acropolis under its command. For example, in the 9th war zone, the entire 9th war zone, the main city plus the Weicheng, there are more than 100 immortal cities. Attacking more than 100 immortal cities at one time, it can be seen how terrifying the troops invested by Yaoting this time. Gu Jian Tianzuan said again, "The military situation is urgent. I suggest dispatching all the inspection Tianzuan to go to the 9th war zone together. What do you think?" "I agree. I agree. I agree." In the sound of approval, Gu Jian Tianzuan nodded and said, "Okay, since that's the case, let's set off immediately." And many more. Just when everyone was about to leave, Lingyu Tianzuan stood up and said to stop him, "Everyone, have you ever thought about what would happen if this battle was Yaoding's plan to move the tiger away from the mountain?" Tiaohu listened. Gu Jian Tianzuan frowned, "You mean Tianzuan City?" Lingyu Tianzuan said word by word. Hearing this, Gu Jian Tianzun's complexion suddenly changed. Indeed, even he went to help the 9th war zone. What should Zunqing do that day? Tianzuan City has always been guarded by the strongest people of the human race. In this era, the strongest person of the human race is his ancient sword Tianzuan. On that day, Zunqing was left unguarded. As the most powerful immortal city of the human race, Tianzuan City needs at least one patrol Tianzuan to exert its full strength. And although Tianzuan City can move a short distance, it can't cross to the 9th war zone. If the immortal city of the human race can be moved at will, there is no need for the human race to stick to one place. Although the immortal city of the human race is a fairy artifact, it can only be moved within a short distance, and the speed of movement is extremely slow, which is why the human race Tianzuan does not run around with the guardian immortal city. Not only Gujian Tianzuan, but other human race Tianzuan also reacted at this moment, and it was too dangerous to be taken by Yaoting. If the demon court succeeded in raiding Tianzuan City because of the aid of the 9th war zone, then the demon court would have inserted a most fatal nail in the hinterland of the human race. Once Tianzuan City falls, Yaoting will inevitably send dozens of true immortal-level world monsters to guard it. At that time, the human race will not have the strength to retake the city. Seeing the ugly faces of everyone, Lingyu Tianzuan continued, "So, Tianzuan City must be guarded." Gujian Tianzuan nodded. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion also nodded and said, "Lingyu Tianzuan is right." Gujian Tianzuan frowned and said, "But this person who guards Tianzuan City?" The 9 war zone was attacked, and as the most powerful heavenly venerate of the human race, he would definitely go to the rescue. Otherwise, Yaoting sent so many true immortal-level world demons, and other inspections of Tianzuan alone would not be able to keep it. But if he leaves, he must leave behind an inspector. Just when Gujian Tianzuan was in trouble, Lingyu Tianzuan said again, "Gujian, everyone, just let me stay." Lingyu bowed his hands to everyone. "In terms of strength, I am the weakest among the many inspections of Tianzuan, but with my strength, it is more than enough to sit in Tianzuan City." "All right." Gujian Tianzuan nodded. The rest of the inspection Tianzuan heard the words and nodded in agreement. Seeing that everyone finally negotiated the candidates to sit in Tianzuan City, Rufeng Tianzuan, who had been waiting for a long time, hurriedly said, "Everyone, since we have discussed the candidates for the guardianship of Tianzuan City, hurry up and help the 9th war zone." "It is good. Everyone, let's go." After a while, Lingyu Tianzuan held the Tianzuan City control token left by Gujian Tianzuan and watched everyone leave, with a smile on his lips. "Good show, it's on." Lingyu Tianzuan murmured, "I just want to become an immortal, don't blame me." Fairy Tomb. Chen Daoxian sat in front of the corpse of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. By observing the corpse of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, he had already analyzed the structure of the divine body. To put it simply, the divine body cultivated by the emperor-killing heavenly venerate is connected by the avenue, and the monk's mana, spirit, and flesh are integrated into one. After cultivating into a divine body, the cultivator's body will gradually show a trend between energy and flesh. Anyway, from Chen Daoxian's point of view, the famous Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate is only one step away from being completely energized. After the divine body is completely energized, is it equivalent to the Mahayana true immortal realm of immortal Tao? Chen Daoxian guessed. In this way, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has not taken the last step, no wonder he will sit down. But immediately, Chen Daoxian was shocked. Yes, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan did not take the last step, which means that the opponent's cultivation base is only equivalent to the realm of the 8 tribulations Tianzuan of the immortal Tao, but how could Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan be so strong? As if thinking of something, Chen Daoxian took out the Pangu axe in the storage ring. Is it because of it? Chen Daoxian muttered. This is the only reason, otherwise, it is impossible to explain why the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate only has a cultivation level equivalent to the 8th Tribulation Heavenly Venerate, but can kill the true immortal level world monsters like slaughtering dogs. After understanding the fleshly body of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, the next thing Chen Daoxian has to do is to transfer from the immortal way to the way of the divine body. The cultivation of the divine body has no secrets in his eyes. What Chen Daoxian has to do is to give up the original path. But since a decision has been made, Chen Daoxian is not the one who hesitates. At the moment, Chen Daoxian began to disperse all his mana. Time passed slowly. Chen Daoxuan's mana and primordial spirit have all dissipated, or in other words, under the framework of the Tao, they are integrated with his fleshly body. At the moment when the three were completely integrated, Chen Daoxuan's body shook violently. Immediately afterwards, his sea of consciousness and dantian completely disappeared. However, although his sea of consciousness and dantian disappeared, the golden scriptures in his sea of consciousness and the instruments in his dantian were still intact in his divine body. This is, nowhere is the sea of consciousness, nowhere is dantian. Chen Daoxian succeeded in shaping the divine body once, and he was in a good mood. He immediately used his divine sense and found that his divine sense was as unobstructed as before. The fact is exactly like this: the divine consciousness was born from the divine soul, and his divine soul was just integrated into the divine body. Of course he could use divine consciousness. But soon, Chen Daoxian thought of an important question. Astral art. Chen Daoxian was apprehensive in his heart. If the constellation technique he had worked so hard to cultivate was abolished because of the cultivation of the divine body, wouldn't it be because of small loss of greatness? But as he ran the constellation technique, the 1,800 orifice stars in the divine body suddenly lit up. In the divine body, the 1,800 stars in the stars kendo map also echoed Chen Daoxuan's 1,800 orifice stars. An extremely terrifying force immediately blessed his divine body. It still works. Chen Daoxian looked overjoyed. It's just, how do I feel that the cultivation of the divine body is improving? After careful sensing, Chen Daoxian found that his divine body cultivation was actually improving. Not only that, Chen Daoxian also discovered that his divine body was actually absorbing the power of the stars transformed by the 1,800 six-star insect soldiers in the star kendo diagram. But, how is that possible? It is clearly recorded in astral art that the 1,800 stars in the star kendo map can only be borrowed by the practitioner using the Zhou Tian Xing Do Great Array, and cannot be turned into their own at all. But now, the change in the divine body has broken his cognition. Although the divine body did not absorb the power of the insect soldiers quickly, this was the case when Chen Daoxian did not take the initiative to absorb it. At this moment, the 1,800 acupoints and stars in his body are like 1,800 black holes, and the power projected by the six-star insect soldiers on these 1,800 black holes is gradually being swallowed up by them. What followed was that Chen Daoxuan's divine body was slowly increasing. This divine body is too domineering. Chen Daoxian exclaimed, according to this trend, my divine body will soon be able to catch up with Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. Although Chen Daoxian has become a god, but after all, he only has the cultivation of the 5 tribulations heavenly venerate. Therefore, his divine body is still a lot worse than the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. But now there are 1,800 six-star insect soldiers replenished, and his divine body is rapidly increasing. Of course, this rapid enhancement is only relative to normal cultivation. Chen Daoxian was obviously not satisfied with this speed. At this moment, a bold idea emerged in his heart. Since the 1,800 acupoints and stars in his divine body have changed, why not abandon the kendo map of the stars and directly set up a great array of stars in his divine body? He thought carefully about the general outline of astral art, and his divine body seemed to be able to meet the requirements for the formation of the sky. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's heart began to heat up. Just relying on the power projected by the 1806-star insect soldiers, 1,800 acupoints and stars can promote the continuous enhancement of the divine body. If he really integrates the 1806-star worm soldiers and the 1800 orifice acupuncture stars, his divine body cannot completely break the barriers that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has not been able to break through. To do or not to do? Qin Daoxian struggled fiercely in his heart. There was a rational voice in his heart, persuading himself to give up. Because his strength is already strong enough. But Qin Daoxian understands that his strength is strong, but like Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, he has no confidence in taking the last step. In the lower realm, if a cultivator wants to leap from the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate to the Mahayana true immortal, he must resort to the 9th thunder tribulation. But Fengyun realm no longer has this condition. As for going to the true demon realm, unless Qin Daoxian can suppress the entire sacred ancient demon realm by himself. But how is this possible? Even if he got the inheritance of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate, even if he had the constellation technique, it was still impossible to do it. The constellation technique has greatly increased his strength, but for a powerhouse like Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, the increase is not so great, at least Qin Daoxian's current stage of the asterisk technique. Even if Qin Daoxian's future strength surpasses Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan with the help of astral technique, can he compare to the entire demon court and the sacred ancient demon realm behind Baiyao court? Impossible. So, he had to find another way. And astral art gave him this shortcut. At this moment, Qin Daoxian finally realized that the path he was taking now completely deviates from the traditional immortal way. Qin Daoxian had no reference for the future. He can only say that with his current divine body cultivation base, he is equivalent to the 8 tribulations heavenly venerative immortal Tao. Since the paths are different, why should I use the experience of immortal Tao to apply the path I'm taking at this time? Qin Daoxian asked back. At this moment, he finally made a decision in his heart, abandoning the star swordsmanship map, using his divine body as the sky, and rebuilding the astral technique. Qin Daoxian opened his mouth. The star kendo map flew out of his mouth. On the star map, 1,800 stars were extremely bright, and he knew that these stars were all transformed by 6-star insect soldiers. In the next second, Qin Daoxian waved his hand, and 1,800 stars turned into a streamer, and they came off the kendo map of stars. With the separation of 1,800 stars, the aura of the stars kendo map dropped rapidly, from the high-grade immortal artifact all the way down to the level of the 6th-order magic artifact. However, Qin Daoxian was unmoved. This star map was originally owned by others, and now it should be returned to its original owner. Seeming to understand Qin Daoxian's intentions, the star sword Dao map rose into the sky, and disappeared in the direction of Fengyun realm in just a split second. Qin Daoxian looked at the direction of Fenjiunji with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Now, it's up to me. Qin Daoxian took a deep breath and opened his eyes again, his eyes were calm. Compared with Xingqian Kendo map, although his divine body is strong, it is definitely not as strong as the material of Xingqian Kendo map. As a growing immortal weapon inherited from the upper realm, although Qin Daoxian did not know the material for making the star's Kendo map, it was definitely stronger than his current divine body. Otherwise, the star Kendo map would not be able to serve as a canopy to carry the power of 1,806 star insect soldiers. Now, Qin Daoxian wants to use his divine body as a new sky, which requires his divine body to withstand the power of 1,806 star insect soldiers. Of course, with his current divine body strength, this is simply impossible. But don't forget, Qin Daoxian's divine sense continued to increase with the power emitted by the insect soldiers, which made it possible for him to repractice the astral technique. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 513. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan Cemetery. Qin Daoxian sat cross-legged facing the corpse of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. In his body, the 1800 acupoints and stars were lit up one by one at this moment, exuding a terrifying devouring power. In front of Qin Daoxian, 1,806 star insect soldiers turned into golden light spots scattered around his body like fireflies. The first one. Qin Daoxian took a deep breath. The acupuncture points in the body were swallowed by a 6-star insect soldier outside the god's body. The golden light spot is like a streamer, straight into Qin Daoxian's body, and it is fleeting. The 1,806-star insect soldiers suddenly lost one and became 1,799. However, in Qin Daoxian's divine body, there is an aperture star occupied by a 6-star worm soldier. Not only that, Qin Daoxian discovered that his aperture was actually devouring this worm soldier, including the energy and matter that made it up. This is. Qin Daoxian did not expect that after cultivating a divine body, the acupoints and stars in his body would actually undergo such changes. This is too overbearing. It actually devoured a 6-star insect soldier directly. Originally, Qin Daoxian just planned to use the divine body as a sky curtain and place these 1,806-star insect soldiers. He did not expect that his acupoints were now so domineering that they directly swallowed the insect soldiers. It is also thanks to this insect soldier that he has a simple mind and recognizes Qin Daoxian as the master. Otherwise, once the worm soldier erupted in his aperture would be blown to pieces in an instant. At that time, even his divine body will be damaged. After all, his divine manifestation is only at the level of the 5 tribulations heavenly venerate, and a mere aperture cannot withstand the full blast of the 6-star insect soldiers. As for the remaining 1,799 6-star insect soldiers, don't be delusional. But now, the 6-star worm soldier in Qin Daoxian's body did not resist at all, letting Qin Daoxian's acupoints swallow it up. At the moment when Qin Daoxian's orifice acupoint devoured the 6-star worm soldier, the breath it exudes suddenly exploded, forming a distinct difference from the other orifice points in the body. What makes Qin Daoxian even more delighted is that his divine body is also slowly improving under the influence of this acupoint. Sure enough, my guess is correct. Placing the worm soldier in the acupuncture point can indeed lead to an increase in the cultivation of the divine body. Qin Daoxian was full of joy. Because he found a way to take the last step even without relying on the 9th thunder tribulation. Insect soldier. What an insect soldier. Qin Daoxian looked at the remaining 1,799 insect soldiers with ecstasy in his eyes. Inner world. In the world opened up by Lingyu Tianzuan. A terrifying breath descended on this world, but Lingyu Tianzuan, as the master of this world, used his means to shield the other party's breath. The outside world does not know that the number 1 enemy of the human race, the demon court emperor, actually teleported through the world and descended into the world of Lingyu Tianzuan. Lingyu Tianzuan wore a white Taoist robe, looked at the domineering man in front of him, bowed and saluted, "Congratulations to the emperor." Who knows that Yaoting emperor glanced at him and said coldly, "Clone." Lingyu Tianzuan looked slightly embarrassed, and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, my subordinate deity is sitting in Tianzuan City. If he leaves his post without authorization, he may be discovered by Gu Jian's old confidant. Although Gu Jian led people to the 9th war zone, he could also bring people back to help at any time, so." The Emperor Yaoting ignored Lingyu Tianzuan's remarks, and directly pierced his mind. "Are you afraid that this seat will cross the river and demolish the bridge and kill you?" Hearing this, Lingyu Tianzuan slammed, and immediately knelt down to the Emperor of Yaoting, and swore to the sky, "The loyalty of the subordinates to the Emperor can be learned from the Great Road." The Emperor Yaoting took a deep look at Lingyu Tianzuan, waved his hand and said, "Get up." "Thank you, Emperor." Lingyu Tianzuan breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that this level was temporarily over. Next, as long as he does what the other party explained, he will definitely get the opportunity to go to the real demon world to cross the 9th thunder tribulation. At that time, he can fly directly to the upper realm just like the ancient real immortals. As for the grievances between the Fengyun realm and the true demon realm, it has nothing to do with him from now on. Why is it that he Ling Yu has been practicing hard for tens of thousands of years, and he is going to fall into the last step of becoming an immortal? He is not reconciled, and even more reluctant. He knew that this move might ruin the entire human race in the Fengyun realm, but for the sake of his own path, he would not hesitate to do anything. I told you what to do, how is it? Emperor, everything has been done. Gu Jian led all the inspections of Tianzuan to help guard the Ninth War Zone. Tianzuan City is under the control of his subordinates. Now the entire inner world is in our pockets. I'm asking about that kid. The Yaoting Emperor looked at Ling Yu Tianzuan, a little dissatisfied. Ling Yu Tianzuan quickly smiled and said, Chen Daoxian is currently accepting the inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan in the tomb. Oh, did he really accept that guy's inheritance? The Demon Court Emperor raised his head, looked in the direction of the real demon world, and said silently, Father, the boy will avenge you. Although I can't kill that guy, I will kill his inheritance in front of that guy with my own hands. Bye. Father, have you seen it? Seeing the Demon Court Emperor in front of him raising his head and saying nothing, Ling Yu Tianzuan did not dare to disturb him at all. It has not been a year or two that he has been dealing with this Demon Court Emperor, and he knows that the demons in this world have a deep prejudice against human monks. Of course, the reason for this is also clear to Ling Yu Tianzuan. In the past, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan personally killed the opponent's father. The hatred of killing the father, how not to make the other party hate the human race cultivator. Although Ling Yu Tianzuan cooperated with Yaoting, he has always been uneasy in his heart. After all, the current emperor of Yaoting hates human cultivators so much. After Yaoting defeats the human race, what should he do if he turns his face and refuses to admit? However, although Tianzuan Ling Yu knew that the other party was very likely to turn his face and deny his account, he still chose to betray the human race when he saw the huge gap in strength between the human race and the world demon, and the temptation to become an immortal by himself. Emperor. A long time. Ling Yu Tianzuan said cautiously, I have a map of the location of the immortal tomb here, please take a look at the emperor. Speaking, Ling Yu Tianzuan took out a star map and handed it over. The Emperor Yaoting took the star map, glanced at it, and nodded with satisfaction. When I kill this son, I will take you to the real demon world to transcend the calamity. Hearing this dream sentence, Ling Yu Tianzuan trembled with excitement. Thank you, Emperor, thank you, Emperor. In his voice of gratitude, the figure of the Demon Court Emperor completely disappeared. The inner world is extremely vast. But in the eyes of Yaoting Emperor, the peak true immortal world demon, it is not that big. With his speed, he would be able to reach the fairy tomb where Chen Daoxian was located in 3 days at most. But at the moment, in the tomb of the fairy, Chen Daoxian had swallowed the last 6-star insect soldier into the acupoint. At the moment when the last 6-star worm soldier was swallowed by his orifice, the Zhou Taingsingde formation was once again formed in Chen Daoxian's divine body. Each of the 1,800 orifice stars exudes extremely terrifying energy fluctuations. The 1,800 orifice stars are integrated through the Zhou Tianqing Great Array, and a terrifying force that surpasses ordinary true immortals erupts. But now, this force was directly subdued by Chen Daoxian. However, this is not what excites Chen Daoxian. What really excites him is that, under the influence of the power of 1,800 acupoints and stars, his divine body cultivation base is constantly surging. Although he has only spent less than 10 days from devouring the first 6-star insect soldier to the present. But his divine body cultivation level has soared directly from the realm of the 5 robbers to the realm of the 8th robbery. Not only that, his divine body cultivation base is still surging. Chen Daoxian felt that his divine body was becoming more and more fully energized. It seems that his divine body can be completely transformed by just one step. No, even if I don't do anything now, with the power of these 1,800 acupoints and stars, my divine body will transform to that level. Qin Daoxian secretly said in his heart. What a fairy. The cultivator's lifelong desire is nothing but to become an immortal and ascend to the upper realm. And now, Qin Daoxian is within reach of this realm. Originally, Qin Daoxian thought that when he really got to this point, he would be extremely excited. But his reaction was far calmer than he had imagined. Just like the transformation of his divine body, everything is just a matter of course. The only thing Qin Daoxian didn't expect was that he would eventually embark on a path completely different from immortal Dao. Feeling the transformation of the divine body, Qin Daoxian seemed to be unable to do anything except wait silently at the moment. Do not. There's one more thing. Qin Daoxian suddenly remembered something, and immediately took out a spiritual treasure from the storage ring. The treasure known as the Heaven-Opening Axe. Speaking of which, the reason why Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is so powerful that he can overwhelm an era, all depends on this treasure. It's just that this treasure can only be used if you step on the avenue of the gods. Qin Daoxian had tried it himself, and his mana had no effect on it. But now, Qin Daoxian once again held the handle of the giant axe. Just as he held the axe, Qin Daoxian's eyes suddenly darkened. The next moment, his consciousness seemed to be pulled into a place of chaos. There is no up and down, no left and right, and naturally there is no heaven and earth. This place is even more lonely than the endless void, and time has no meaning in this chaotic land. I don't know how long it took, maybe 100 million years, maybe only one breath. Qin Daoxian saw a giant in this chaos. A bruised, gasping giant. The giant had bare feet, held a giant axe, and his eyes were determined. The giant held his breath, raised the giant axe with one hand, exhaled a breath of turbid air, and said in his mouth, "Open the sky." With this voice, a big explosion suddenly occurred in the chaos, and Qin Daoxian could not describe this explosion at all. It's just that after this explosion, something called matter was born in the chaos, and then there was space and time. Even Qin Daoxian saw a familiar golden light flashing away. Is that the golden scriptures? Qin Daoxian didn't have time to take a closer look. The next moment, his consciousness was moved out of this chaotic place. Although his consciousness was moved out of the land of chaos, the image of the giant holding the Pangu axe to open the sky was deeply imprinted in Qin Daoxian's mind. Want to forget cannot forget. Xin Yun. Qin Daoxian murmured, I didn't expect that in this small piece of Pangu axe, there would actually be the spirit of opening the sky. This chance, really. No wonder Qin Daoxian was excited. He did not expect that the giant axe in the hands of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate was actually a fragment of the Pangu axe. What's even more rare is that in this Pangu axe fragment, there is still the spirit of opening the sky. Sure enough, the avenue of the divine body that I and the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan took is the road of proving the Tao with strength. Before the prehistoric era, the immortal way was only one of the great roads. The way of the divine body is not weaker than the way of the immortal, but after the immortal Tao became prosperous, there were fewer and fewer cultivators who really followed the way of the divine body. There is no distinction between these two paths, only the cultivator has the distinction. Those who are strong in the way of the divine body are like the great Pangu, and those who are strong in the immortal way are like the sage Heng Jun. How can the way of the divine body be inferior to the immortal way? The most important thing is that the way of the divine body has an unparalleled advantage in the Phoenix meteor realm. It can reach the level of the Mahayana true immortal without going through a calamity. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan fell at the last step. Qin Daoxian took the last step because he learned the astral art. Everything can only be said, time, fate. Feeling the Kaitian charm in his mind, Qin Daoxian was reluctant to waste it. He didn't know when the next time Pangu axe would let him watch the Kaitian charm. Kaitian Shinyun will fade away in his mind little by little as time goes by. Qin Daoxian wants to comprehend it as much as possible before he forgets it. At this moment, Chen Daoxian finally understood why Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate only had the divine body cultivation of 8 tribulations Heavenly Venerate, but he could kill a true immortal level world monster like a slaughtering dog. The key is to open the sky and the charm. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know how much the other party had learned in tens of thousands of years, the other party was able to kill the last demon court emperor, relying on the Pangu axe in his hand and the spirit of opening the sky. Although Chen Daoxian didn't have tens of thousands of years for him to slowly comprehend the spirit of Kai Tian, he has another more perverted thing, Hongbang Enlightenment Classic. He couldn't help but think of the golden light that flashed away in the picture of Pangu opening the sky. Sure enough, my golden scriptures are the treasures born at the beginning of Hongbang. Chen Daoxian secretly said. Shaking his head, throwing off the distracting thoughts in his mind, he immediately activated the understanding stars in God's body. As the comprehension stars burned, his comprehension began to soar. This time, Chen Daoxian directly raised his comprehension to 1,000 times unprecedented state. With 1,000 times comprehension, his current comprehension stars can only last for 1 stick of incense at most. But Chen Daoxian couldn't wait. Kai Tian Xinyun has been forgotten more and more, and he must comprehend it as much as possible within a stick of incense, even if it is only a little bit of comprehension. With the blessing of 1,000 times of comprehension, Chen Daoxian felt that the picture of Pangu Kai Tian in his mind became extraordinarily slow. Slowly, he saw it clearly. He could clearly see the movement of the great Tao in Pangu's body. What a vast Tao law! Chen Daoxian was shocked by the Tao law in Pangu God's body. Compared with the Tao law of the other God's body, the Tao law in his God's body was as ridiculous as a child's graffiti. However, Chen Daoxian was not discouraged. Because he knew that the one he saw was the great who opened up the great wasteland. Before the chaos opened, this one was the most well-deserved strongest among countless innate gods and demons. The avenues within his body are, of course, incomparably vast. Just looking at it, Chen Daoxian was dizzy and didn't dare to look at the avenue in Pangu God's body. Chen Daoxian only observed the trajectory of this axe. In the cemetery, Chen Daoxian closed his eyes, made an axe with his hand, and kept gesturing. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 5:14. In the blink of an eye, the time for a stick of incense passed. Chen Daoxian withdrew from the state of 1,000 times comprehension. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan Cemetery. Chen Daoxian opened his eyes and said to himself, unfortunately, it's still a little bit. He already felt that part of Kaishin's charm had been lost, and the picture of Pangu Kai Tian in his mind was not as clear as it was before a stick of incense. Chen Daoxian didn't dare to delay, and immediately took out a bunch of Jiayuan beads from the gourd-shaped cave artifact he carried with him. With the palm of his hand, these Jiayuanzhu immediately shattered, and Chen Daoxian was completely wrapped by countless chaotic auras. But he didn't panic at all. The next moment, the golden scriptures in the god's body began to swallow these chaotic qi, while the golden scriptures swallowed the chaotic qi, while transforming the chaotic qi into stardust of understanding. Finally, a brand new star of perception was constructed again. Chen Daoxian's face was overjoyed when he saw the new comprehension stars in the divine body, but he immediately felt that the spirit of opening the sky was constantly passing, so he didn't dare to delay, and immediately entered the state of 1,000 times comprehension again. Only this time, Chen Daoxian clearly felt that it had become a little more difficult to understand the spirit of Kai Tian. Is it because of the passage of Kai Tian Xinyun? Chen Daoxian muttered. He didn't know the specific requirements for comprehending the heaven-opening charm on Pangu's axe, but he obviously couldn't comprehend it at will. Maybe it took a time interval, or maybe there were other conditions. Chen Daoxian didn't care about the time interval. With his divine body cultivation base that was about to break through to the level of a true immortal, he could feel that his lifespan had reached an extremely terrifying level. To a certain extent, with the cultivation of the divine body that he is about to break through, he can already live the same life as heaven and earth. Without the limitation of lifespan, Chen Daoxian naturally didn't care about the time limit for comprehending Kaitian Shinyun. What Chen Daoxian was worried about was that other requirements were needed to comprehend Kaitian Shinyun. Therefore, he must do everything in his power to seize this opportunity for enlightenment. After all, no one knows when the next time they will have such an opportunity will have to wait. Soon, a stick of incense passed by again. Chen Daoxian once again absorbed the qi of chaos and transformed his perception of stardust. Time passed little by little. A day later, Kaitian Shinyun completely disappeared from his mind. He clearly knew that he had seen the picture of the great Pangu Kaitian from the fragments of Pangus axe, but he couldn't remember the specific content of Kaitian. It was as if the image of Pangu opening the sky was completely wiped from his mind by an invisible force. Opening his eyes again, Chen Daoxian stood up, and then respectfully kowtowed 3 times towards Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. The other party preached to him with his corpse. For him, although he did not have the name of master and apprentice, he had the reality of master and apprentice. Chen Daoxian's worship is justified. After worshipping the emperor, Chen Daoxian slowly withdrew from the other's tomb. With a flash of light, he found an open space in this immortal tomb. Then, Chen Daoxian took a deep breath. He could clearly sense that his divine body was stronger than the emperor's slaughter heavenly venerate at the peak of that year. Moreover, his divine body is still strengthening under the impetus of the 1,800 acupoints and stars in his body. If other cultivators observe Chen Daoxian with divine sense, they will find that his divine body is no longer a pure flesh and blood body, but is developing in the direction of energy. Chen Daoxian knew that this was the avenue of the divine body that was different from the immortal way. The transformation of the divine body cannot be accomplished overnight, it is a slow process. Chen Daoxian wondered if it was the same for other spiritual practitioners, or if the power source to support the transformation of his divine body was insufficient. But Chen Daoxian prefers the latter reason. The 9th Thunder Tribulation by Tianzuan is relying on the power of Thunder Tribulation to complete the transformation from the Tribulation period to the final step of the Mahayana period, and Chen Daoxian cannot use the power of Thunder Tribulation now. Fortunately, the avenue of the divine body can not only rely on the power of Thunder Tribulation to complete the final transformation, but also other powers, such as the 1800 acupuncture stars that make up the Zhou Tian Xingdou Great Array. Fairy Tomb. On a vast expanse of wasteland. Chen Daoxian stood quietly in the wasteland, with a thought, his divine body began to soar. This time, he didn't use the magical powers of the Dharma image. What he showed at the moment was the original size of his divine body. Thousands, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 80,000. After the divine body soared to 80,000 zhang, it continued to rise. But Chen Daoxian can clearly feel that the speed of his divine body skyrocketing has slowed down. It seems that 80,000 zhang is the limit size of the divine body before breaking through. 80,000 feet, converted to the height of the previous life, is 267 kilometers, even if the true immortal Jinpeng world demon that Chen Daoxian had seen before, only had a demon body of several 100,000 feet. His current divine body is no longer much smaller than the opponent's. It is foreseeable that once Chen Daoxian breaks through, his divine body will be much larger than that of the true immortal Jinpeng world demon. For monks who follow the way of the divine body, the size of the divine body is very important. Because the body cultivator does not cultivate mana and soul, his strength is all above the body. The larger the body, the stronger the body cultivator is. Of course, in the usual battles, the cultivator of the divine body does not need to unfold the divine body, but only needs to maintain a normal body shape. But once the cultivator fully reveals the divine body, it means that he will go all out. This is the same as the real monster's body when the world monster fights fiercely. Chen Daoxian showed his divine body in this wasteland. Naturally, he did not want to fight with anyone, but to confirm what he had learned from the spirit of Kaitian. Although the Kaitian Shinyun had been completely forgotten in his mind, what he learned from Kaitian Shinyun really belonged to him. Emperor Slaughter Tianzan's strength is so strong, not because of his cultivation, but because of what he learned in the spirit of opening the sky. Now, Qin Daoxian finally has this qualification. It's just that compared to Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, Qin Daoxian is more fortunate, because he also has the astral technique, which can cultivate the divine body to the level of a true immortal. Qin Daoxian stretched out his palm, and a quaint giant axe appeared in his hand, which was the Pangu axe. As a low-grade Lingbao, Qin Daoxian drove it, but there was no pressure. This is very different from the immortal artifact. If the cultivator's cultivation base is insufficient, it is not enough to motivate the immortal artifact. But Lingbao is different. It is far from enough to motivate Lingbao with Qin Daoxuan's divine body cultivation, but he can mobilize it, but the strength he exerts cannot be compared with that of earth immortals and heavenly immortals. Holding the Pangu axe, Qin Daoxian looked solemn. Previously, under the blessing of 1,000 times of comprehension, he had comprehended the spirit of opening the sky for a whole day, and he turned the comprehension into 3 moves. Now, Qin Daoxian will confirm and perfect these 3 moves. Looking at the lonely and desolate world of immortal tombs, Qin Daoxian took a deep breath, the first of the 3 types of Kaitian, killing immortals. In Qin Daoxuan's mind, the trajectory of the giant axe cutting through the chaos flashed again. At the same time, the Pangu axe in his hand moved. The trajectory of this axe is exactly the same as that of the axe when Pangu opened the sky, but if a powerful cultivator is watching, he will find that this axe only has its surface, but the inner avenue is completely different. But with Qin Daoxuan's divine body cultivation base, it is not easy to imitate his appearance. If you want to imitate a little bit of the charm of Pangu's opening of the sky, let's wait until the day he is sanctified. But it is only a mere appearance, and the power displayed by it is also terrifying. However, the first form in 3 forms of Kaitian, with Qin Daoxuan's current divine body cultivation, can already be perfectly controlled, and even without using the power of 1,800 acupoints and stars in his body, he can perform this move perfectly. Although Qin Daoxian doesn't know how this move compares to the Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate, if he encounters that true immortal Jinpeng world demon again, Qin Daoxian has the confidence to kill it with an axe. This axe slashed through the void, but not even the space crack was left. It can be seen that Qin Daoxuan's control of the first style of Kaitian has reached its peak and can be used as a regular move. After performing the first move, Qin Daoxian couldn't wait to perform the second move. The 3 Kaitian styles he learned from Kaitian Shinyun were more terrifying than each. Qin Daoxian had a hunch that the second form of the opening day might not be so easy to perform smoothly. However, Qin Daoxian was not sure about the specifics. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian stopped thinking about it, took a deep breath, and poured infinite divine energy into the Pangu axe. However, not enough. Qin Daoxuan's face was ashen. Careless. He didn't expect that the second form of opening the sky had such high requirements on the cultivation of the divine body. This time, Qin Daoxian once again experienced the pain caused by high understanding. If he hadn't comprehended the whole day with 1,000 times his comprehension, how could he have comprehended the 3 ways of opening the sky? It seems that there is no need to try the third style of Kaitian anymore. With this second style of Kaitian alone, he can drink a pot. Sure enough, after Qin Daoxian discovered that his divine body cultivation was not enough to support this move, his divine body actually burned completely. Before Qin Daoxian could react, a terrifying energy poured into the Pangu axe. Immediately, the second form of Kaitian came out smoothly. Feeling the terrifying power of Kaishin's second style, Qin Daoxian did not dare to slash at the earth, but slashed the axe into the sky. The second style of opening the sky, slaying the gods. This axe ripped apart the sky and the space barriers of the immortal tomb world in just an instant. This axe, The rays of light that erupted stretched for thousands of miles. After tearing apart the space barriers of the immortal tomb world, it did not stop at all, and flew all the way to the depths of the endless void. Outside the tomb, the tomb keeper saw the huge gap in the world of the immortal tomb, and a drop of cold sweat flowed down his cheek. That's... He didn't know how to describe this axe. After a long time, he murmured, fortunately, it was not aimed at the world of the immortal tomb. Not caring too much, the tomb keeper immediately teleported and flew into the immortal tomb along the space gap opened by Qindao Xian. Enter the fairy tomb. The tomb keeper saw Qin Daoxuan's enormous divine body. He had seen the divine body of the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate in the records of the classics, but he was not too surprised. Now he has only surprises in his heart. You succeeded. The tomb keeper immediately flew in front of Qin Daoxian, facing Qin Daoxuan's divine body more than 200 kilometers away. The tomb keeper was as small as a speck of dust. Qin Daoxian naturally wouldn't talk to the other party in this state. With a thought, his divine body disappeared instantly, returning to the normal body shape of the adult race. Looking at the eager eyes of the tomb keeper, Qin Daoxian cupped his hands and said, "Fortunately, I didn't lose my life." Good. Heaven will not kill my human race, and heaven will not kill my human race. The tomb keeper was excited. Qin Daoxian can understand the other party's excitement. The situation facing the human race is becoming more and more dangerous, and there is a possibility of extermination at any time. At this time, there is a powerhouse comparable to the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate, which is simply a boost to the morale of the human race. Not to mention Qin Daoxuan's strength, not to mention counterattacking the real demon world, but there is no problem in cooperating with the various fairy towns to protect the precarious human race. This is already the best situation human race heavenly venerate can think of. As for counterattacking the real demon world, they never thought about it, even in the ancient times when the real immortals of the Phoenix meteor realm emerged one after another. The human race could not win the real demon world, let alone now. In today's era, it is lucky enough for the human race to be safe. After the tomb guard was excited, he found that Qin Daoxuan's face was pale, and he immediately thought of the axe that cut through the barriers of the world of the immortal tomb, and quickly said, "Are you injured?" "Small issue," Qin Daoxian shook his head. "I also ask Senior to protect the law for me 1 or 2. The tomb keeper immediately agreed, "Just rest assured to heal." Qin Daoxian nodded. He had just performed the second form of Tian Tian, and with his divine body cultivation, he could not support this move at all. In the end, he relied on the burning divine body to break out the power of this move. This allowed Qin Daoxian to learn about the new operation of the divine body, or a desperate method, burning the divine body. In order to perform the second form of Tian Tian, my divine body actually burned about 1%. Qin Daoxian shook his head. You must know that his divine body is full of divine soul, and burning 1% divine body also means that the damage to the divine soul reaches 1%. And once the soul is damaged more than 50%, it will fall into a state of fainting. When facing the enemy, falling into a faint, there is only one way to die. In this way, the burning divine body must not exceed 50%. Qin Daoxian remembered this standard line. But then again, if I used the astral technique just now, I wouldn't have to burn the divine body. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but smile. At the critical moment, he forgot about the astral technique. This is also the reason why he performed the 3 forms of the open heaven for the first time. In addition, since he successfully cultivated the constellation technique, he has never performed it before, so it is normal to be unfamiliar. As for the third form in 3 forms of Kai Tian, Qin Daoxian would not dare to perform it even if he was beaten to death. Using the second form of the opening day, he was already forcing him to burn the divine body, and even so, he only exerted the lowest power of the second form of the opening day. If you want to maximize the power of Kaitian's second form, it is not enough to burn only 1% of the divine body. Of course, if the astral technique is used, Chen Daoxian estimates that the effect is at least comparable to burning 5% of the divine body. The method of burning the divine body desperately is really terrifying. Chen Daoxian muttered. You must know that after performing the astral technique, his basic strength can theoretically be comparable to that of a true immortal. In other words, if Chen Daoxian burns 5% of his divine body, he can burst into power comparable to that of a true immortal. And this is just the basic strength, without any esoteric blessing. What if it burns 40% or even 50% of the divine body at one time? Chen Daoxian finally knew why the Emperor slaughtered Tianzuan could kill the previous demon court emperor. Encountering this kind of perversion, who will die if the demon court emperor does not die? 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 515. Immortal Tomb World. The tomb keeper raised his head, looked at the devastated world, tore a huge gap, and sighed slightly. It's okay if it's abolished. If it's abolished, you won't have to guard this broken cemetery anymore. Say it. The tomb guardian flashed and flew out of the world of the immortal tomb, standing above the space gap opened by Chen Daoxian. On the wasteland. Chen Daoxian sat cross-legged and was slowly recovering his divine body. The tomb guardian stood on the space gap with his hands behind his back, not only guarding the immortal tomb, but also protecting the law for Chen Daoxian. Time passed slowly, and 2 days passed in a blink of an eye. Inner void. A stream of light is advancing at a speed that is unimaginable for ordinary monks. If you look closely, you will find that the speed of this streamer is even more exaggerated than the speed of the human race light boat. This is no longer the escape speed that heavenly venerate transcends tribulation can achieve. Looking at the desolate ruins of the true immortal realm in front of him, the demon court emperor took a deep breath and said with a smile, "Is this the human race immortal tomb?" Who? The tomb keeper standing above the gap in the world of the immortal tomb immediately discovered the demon court emperor, who came quickly. In the eyes of the tomb keeper, the demon court emperor is like a scorching sun in the void, extremely hot and dazzling. Oh! There's another fish that slipped through the net. The Emperor Yaoting cast his gaze over, with a faint smile on his monstrous face. Are you the guardian of this cemetery? Who are you? The tomb keeper had never seen the demon court emperor, but he felt an extremely terrifying aura on him. True fairy level. The opponent is definitely a real fairy level world demon. However, this is the hinterland of the human race, and there are Tianzuan towns guarding it. How can there be a true immortal level world demon here? Could it be that the world demon has broken through the human defense line? Seeing the suspicious look on the face of the tomb keeper, the smile on the face of the Yaoting emperor slowly disappeared. This is the one who is asking you, not you. Agitated by the coercion emanating from the other party, the tomb keeper couldn't help but take a few steps back. It's really weak, I can't even resist the pressure I normally exude from me. If it wasn't for the immortal city left by the ancient real immortals of your human race would have been destroyed long ago. Humph. This is not to worry about, Your Excellency. Your world demon is so strong, but you can take down my human race and talk about it. Although the tomb guard is not as strong as the opponent, his tone is not soft at all. Interesting, the Yaoting emperor smiled. You are the first person to face this seat, and there is such a daring person. Yes, I won't kill you today, get out. Who knows that the tomb keeper took a deep breath, and a strange look burst into his eyes. Although I don't want to guard this broken tomb, since I am the tomb guard, then the tomb is there. After saying that, the tomb guard folded his hands together, and his figure skyrocketed. In an instant, a Dharma elephant with a height of more than tens of thousands of meters appeared in front of the demon emperor. Facing the Dharma image of the tomb guard, the demon emperor was as small as dust, but it was this dust that made the Dharma image of the tens of thousands of tomb guards dare not act rashly. Although the tomb keeper is the heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations, his strength has not reached the level of inspecting heavenly venerate, and he is not the opponent of this true immortal level world demon at all. Now, he only hopes that the war that broke out here will disturb the guards of Tianzuan City. The space gap above the immortal tomb. 2 figures, one big and one small, confronted each other. Man's arm is a car, I don't know whether to live or die. The Yaoting Emperor only said this, then raised his right hand and flicked his finger towards the tens of thousands of feet in front of the Dharma elephant. Next moment, the Dharma image with thousands of feet guarding the tomb seemed to be impacted by an unparalleled force and fell directly towards the world of the fairy tomb. Boom! There was a shock like the earth shaking and the whole world of the immortal tomb trembled violently. In the wasteland, a giant pit with a diameter of hundreds of kilometers suddenly appeared. Inside the giant pit, there was a grave keeper who had been destroyed by the Dharma image. Perhaps the demon court emperor kept his hand, or perhaps this blow was not enough to kill the tomb keeper. He lay in the giant pit, golden blood gushing out of his mouth. Cough, cough, cough. The tomb guard kept coughing up blood, struggling to stand up. But his injury at the moment does not allow him to do any other action. With a single finger, Yaoting Emperor has already severely damaged his soul and body. If he hadn't left his hand, he would have already been wiped out. Got you. Above the fairy tomb world. The Emperor Yaoting was separated from the world barrier, his eyes passed through the huge space gap above, and cast his eyes on Qin Xian. The collision of heaven and earth caused by the fall of the tomb keeper just now did not seem to affect Qin Xian. Now, Qin Daoxuan's figure is being wrapped in a golden light, floating in the already messy wasteland. Humph. Pretend. The demon court emperor snorted coldly. Next moment, I saw 2 huge black claws like mist at the huge space gap above. These 2 giant black claws are opening up the space gap that was avoided by Qin Daoxian little by little. The immortal tomb world was first opened by Qin Daoxian with the second style of opening the sky, and it has not yet fully recovered, and then this gap was directly opened by the Yaoting Emperor. Even if this true immortal realm did not die, being tossed by Qin Daoxian and Yaoting Emperor, it is estimated that death is not far away. Die. The space gap that had gradually recovered was torn open again by a huge gap. Immediately afterwards, a towering giant claw made of black mist shot towards Qin Daoxian. This scene is like a falling star celestial body, smashing on a small human race. Seeing this terrifying claw, the gravekeeper's heart gradually cooled down. He knew that even though Qin Daoxian got the inheritance of the Emperor's slaughter heavenly venerate, after all, the time was short, and his strength was not as good as that of the Emperor's slaughter heavenly venerate, even compared to him. It's over. The tomb keeper closed his eyes in despair, as if he could not bear to watch the next scene. But the moment he closed his eyes, an earth-shattering roar spread throughout the world of the immortal tomb. What? In this roar, in addition to anger, the gravekeeper also heard a hint of pain. The tomb guards didn't even bother to use their spiritual sense to check, and quickly opened their eyes. The sight in front of him will be unforgettable for a lifetime. I saw that the giant black claws that had fallen from the sky before were cut into 2 halves by Qin Daoxuan's axe. The tomb keeper couldn't help staring at Qin Daoxian blankly. The white Taoist robe had long since shattered, revealing his strong upper body. He held a giant axe, raised his head, looked at the mighty demon court emperor, and wailed wildly there. How is it possible? The tomb keeper couldn't believe his eyes, but the black giant claw that broke on the wasteland could not be faked, it was the claws of the demon court emperor. Die. I want you to die. Outside of the fairy tomb world, the demon court emperor completely revealed his demon body. The monster body of millions of meters, even if the torn space gap is in front of it, it is only a trivial small opening. Qin Dao Xian. Give me death. The demon body of the demon court emperor is a violent ape, but compared with the ape of the demon beast, the other party has 6 arms. However, Qin Dao Xian cut off one just now, and now there are only 5 left. But for the demon court emperor at the pinnacle of the true immortal level, the injury of cutting off his arm is not even a drizzle. In just a split second, the opponent's arm was restored to its original state. Qin Dao Xian ignored the demon court emperor who revealed his demon body, but teleported to the gravekeeper's side. First, he put a healing medicinal pill into the opponent's mouth, and then put the opponent in the Dongtian magic weapon. After completing all this, Qin Dao Xian raised his head and looked at the demon court emperor, who was hundreds of feet tall. Compared with the real immortal level world monster he encountered in Yaoguang City, the monster body in front of him was more than 10 times larger. Although it is impossible to judge the strength of a world monster based on its body, normally, the larger the body of the world monster, the stronger its strength. Anyway, the pressure Qin Dao Xian felt in front of him was 10 times or even 100 times more than that of the true immortal world demon in Yaoguang City. This is a real fairy-level peak world monster. Qin Dao Xian immediately judged the opponent's strength. There aren't many world demons of this level, even in the demon court, right? Qin Dao Xian guessed. Otherwise, the real immortal level world demons in the demon court are so strong, that human race has long been wiped out. Even if there is an immortal city left by the ancient real immortals, it is useless. Come out. The violent ape roared, and on each of its 6 arms, each arm held a stick-type high-grade pure yang fairy weapon. At this moment, it danced with 6 arms, and the 6 giant sticks waved down at the fairy tomb world. Not good. Seeing this violent scene, Qin Daoxuan's expression changed immediately. Without thinking about it, he just teleported and disappeared into the world of the fairy tomb. At the moment when Qin Dao Xian left, the entire fairy tomb world was hit by 6 giant sticks. In this scene, it was as if 2 stars collided fiercely, and the violent explosion caused strong light radiation. But Qin Dao Xian was in the void of the inner domain, but he could not hear the slightest sound, and could only witness the scene of the destruction of the sky and the earth. The immortal tomb world was actually blown up by this violent ape. The violent ape was not reconciled to blowing up the world of the immortal tomb with the immortal weapon, and glared at Qin Dao Xian, who escaped by teleportation, and roared, "The descendant of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, will you just run away? Brave, fight with me. As you wish." Qin Dao Xian took a deep breath and his divine body soared. Just a moment. His divine body rose to about 100,000 zhang. Ha, it really is the divine body of Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate. The Yaoting Emperor laughed wildly. Your divine body looks bigger than the one cultivated by the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, but I don't know how powerful the axe in your hand is. Qin Dao Xian retorted, didn't you taste it just now? Court death. Qin Daoxuan's words reminded him of the pain of a broken arm, and immediately swung a stick at him. Good come. In the face of the terrifying stick, Qin Dao Xian ignored it, raised the giant axe in his hand, and waved it in the face of the stick. Boom! The violent collision triggered a terrifying wave, which spread to the surrounding barren world, making a terrifying sound. This moment, the desolate little world around was captured by the 2 men's crazy confrontation, like a small boat in a sea of anger, and there is a risk of being destroyed at any time. But whether it is Qin Dao Xian or the Demon Court Emperor, they can't care about this at the moment. In the eyes of the 2 of them, only each other. Happy. Happy. The Yaoting Emperor swung a stick again to repel Qin Dao Xian. As expected of the inheritance of that guy who killed the Emperor, it really is strong enough. A humanized smile appeared on the face of the violent monkey, but if you only have this kind of heat, today will be your death day next year. Chen Daoxian also discovered that he used the 100,000 zhang divine body to perform the heavenly first form, and its power was only comparable to a stick fairy weapon in the hands of the violent ape in front of him. But the power of the opponent's previous 6 arms waving together, he is far from comparable. Seeing the opponent's 6 arms attack at the same time, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think of the magical power of 3 heads and 6 arms. But even if he uses this magical power now, it is useless. After all, he does not have 6 pangu axes for him to drive. Think of this. Chen Daoxian immediately displayed the astral art. Open. Following an order, the Zhou Taingsingde formation composed of 1,800 orifices and stars in the god's body suddenly erupted with a terrifying force. Even the demon court emperor felt the terror of this power. He could feel that the power in Chen Daoxian broke that boundary. True immortal. The Yaoting emperor couldn't believe his eyes. No, your divine body has not changed, you are using the secret method to burst out the power of the true immortal. The demon court emperor is very sure. Okay, I used to kill you easily, and I didn't feel any pleasure, but now you are just right. The demon court emperor is extremely arrogant. Chen Daoxian had no intention of arguing with the other party. At this moment, he only felt that an explosive force was surging in his body. This was the first time he had used it in front of others after he learned astral art. And the target is the demon court emperor of the true demon realm. With the support of this terrifying power, Chen Daoxian finally had the confidence to perform the second style of Tian Tian without burning the divine body. Chen Daoxian looked at the arrogant demon court emperor, and said coldly, the second form of Kaitian, slaying God. The power of astrology, the second form of the 3 forms of opening the sky. At this moment, Chen Daoxian broke out the strongest attack in history. Facing this axe, the demon court emperor, who had a demon body of several million feet, was stunned. How can it be so strong? How can it be so strong? The Yaoting emperor was stunned for less than a billionth of a second, then he came back to his senses. Want to kill me? Dreaming. Once again, the 6 giant sticks are swung together and finally combined into one blow. The previous blow that exploded the world of the immortal tomb reappeared. However, this time, the demon court monarch did not have the power to destroy the world of the immortal tomb with a single blow. I saw his huge monster body of millions of meters, like a meteorite that was hit, dragging a long tail hui, and flew out towards the void of the inner domain. As for the 6 stick-type high-grade fairy artifacts in its hands, one of them shattered directly, and the other 5 were damaged differently. Its monster body is full of cracks. If most of the power of this blow was not absorbed by the high-grade fairy weapon in its hands, he would be dead by now. He can kill me, he can kill me. The demon court emperor was stunned. But soon, it reacted. Escape. Must escape. Immediately, the Emperor Yaoting took advantage of the distance opened by Chen Daoxian's axe and fled wildly. After all, it is a true immortal level peak cultivation base after all, and its escaping speed is much faster than that of Chen Daoxian, but the Yaoting Emperor is seriously injured at the moment, and the speed of his escape is similar to the speed of Chen Daoxian's post-star surgery. In this way, the two flew in the direction of Tianzhuan City one after the other. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 5:16. How dare you escape in the direction of Tianzhuan City? In the void of the inner domain, Chen Daoxian bit behind the demon court emperor. Detecting Chen Daoxian, who was chasing after him, the demon court emperor's face was gloomy. It was the first time in his life that he was chased and killed like a lost dog. However, how could he be so strong? He shouldn't be so strong. At this moment, the demon court emperor even wondered if Ling Yu had set up a plan for him in conjunction with the top officials of the human race, and deliberately lured it to come over and kill him. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain how Chen Daoxuan's strength could be hidden so well. Thinking of this, the Yaoting Emperor was startled. If Ling Yu sets up a situation for it, then if it runs away in the direction of Tianzuan City, wouldn't it be self-defeating? Thinking of this, the Yaoting Emperor secretly regretted in his heart. It is too careless, it should not enter the hinterland of the human race alone. But now it has no way out, except to find Ling Yu Tianzuan and let him use world teleportation to help him leave. Yaoting Emperor can't think of a better way to escape. Right now, there's only one chance to gamble. The Yaoting Emperor sullenly said, secretly. Chen Daoxian was chasing behind the Yaoting Emperor, and he was also happy when he saw the direction of the other party's escape. This guy, he doesn't know that it is the direction of Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian was secretly happy. It is estimated that the other party will be very surprised to see Gu Jian Tianzuan driving Tianzuan City to block him in front of him. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian was not in a hurry, and fell behind the other party without any hassle, letting the Yaoting Emperor take a sigh of relief. The opponent's speed has slowed down. How sensitive the Yaoting Emperor was, he immediately noticed that Chen Daoxian had slowed down. He didn't know if it was time for Chen Daoxuan's secret method, or if the other party deliberately revealed flaws. In short, he didn't dare to gamble. After all, if he lost the gamble, he would die. 3 days later. Tianzuan City is already in sight. Seeing Tianzuan City, Chen Daoxian and Yaoting Emperor were both overjoyed. From a distance, Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was responsible for guarding Tianzuan City, felt 2 extremely powerful breaths and flew towards Tianzuan City quickly. He immediately urged Tianzuan City and opened all the defenses of Tianzuan City. Boom! Endless spiritual light, following the giant formation established by the ancient real immortals, gathered around Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian sensed that the breath of Tianzuan City continued to soar. True immortal early stage, true immortal middle stage, true immortal late stage, true immortal peak. In the end, the coercion displayed by the entire Tianzuan City faintly touched the level beyond the true immortal. Earth immortal. Chen Daoxian looked at Tianzuan City in shock. Until this moment, he really understood that the human race can still stand for 470,000 years in the Phoenix world after all the true immortals and powerhouses have ascended. What a Tianzuan City, this is Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian sighed. The Emperor Yaoting sensed the terrifying pressure emanating from Tianzuan City, and his face changed faintly. But he was immediately suppressed by him. Although Tianzuan City was terrifying, its demon court also had the power to suppress it. Yaoting dared to launch a unified battle against the entire true demon realm because Yaoting received the support of a demon saint in the ancient demon domain. It is because of the support of the demon saint that the demon court dares to launch a war unscrupulously in the real demon world. Otherwise, although the ordinary real immortal level world demon is powerful, it will not make all the forces in the real demon world fear. Chen Daoxuan's eyes passed through Tianzuan City and saw Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was driving the entire Tianzuan City. The Yaoting Emperor also saw each other. Stop it now. Stop him. The two spoke in unison and shouted this sentence towards Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was driving Tianzuan City. Ling Yu Tianzuan was also stunned by the scene in front of him. What did he see? A 5 tribulations heavenly venerate, whom he had only seen before, was actually chasing and killing the demon court emperor. This scene is as absurd as a cheer-refining cultivator chasing and killing Jin Dan real person. Ling Yu Tianzuan even wondered if he was wrong. Chen Daoxuan's eyes became slightly wary when he heard Yaoting Emperor shout, "Stop him." He knew that Tianzuan City was originally guarded by the ancient sword Tianzuan, so the question came, what about the ancient sword Tianzuan? Thinking of the previous Yaoting Emperor's desperate efforts to run towards Tianzuan City, Chen Daoxian had a faint feeling in his heart, and even the speed of chasing the Yaoting Emperor completely slowed down. A mere monarch of the demon court is naturally nothing to worry about when he performs the astral technique and the second style of opening the sky. But with the addition of the powerful weapon of the human race, Tianzuan City, it is not necessarily the case. Qin Daoxian did not dare to be careless. Seeing that Lingyu Tianzuan was indifferent, the Demon Court Emperor released a big move and said, "Lingyu, do you still want to transcend the tribulation and become an immortal and fly to the upper realm? Cross the robbery and become an immortal, soar to the upper realm." Lingyu repeated this sentence in his mouth, his eyes were complicated for a while, and finally turned into a firmness. Cross the calamity and become a fairy. Fly to the upper realm. What does the lower realm have to do with me, the real fairy in the upper realm? Thinking of this, Lingyu Tianzan's eyes completely firmed up. But he was still reluctant to help, and instead said to the Yaoting Emperor, "Emperor, I want you to give me a guarantee." "What guarantee?" The Yaoting Emperor was going crazy. In the past, Lingyu Tianzuan had no right to bargain with him. But now the other party is controlling the human race Tianzuan City, and it is being chased by the fierce Qin Daoxian. It knows that the current Lingyu Tianzuan has this qualification. Seeing that Qin Daoxian had completely stopped chasing, the Yaoting Emperor simply stopped too. Qin Daoxian, Yaoting Emperor, and Tianzunqing have become a triangular confrontation. "Okay, I promise you." The Demon Court Emperor's clothes softened. Immediately, the Yaoting Emperor took the face of Qin Daoxian and the countless human monks in Tianzuan City, and swore an oath, "I swear here, after this battle, I will help Lingyu Tianzuan to survive the 9th Thunder Tribulation. If there is a false statement, this seat is willing to be abandoned by the Great Tao." Boom! Even though he was in the void of the inner realm, there was a thunderous explosion in Qin Daoxian's ear. The Oath of the Avenue, done. In Tianzuan City. Countless human monks took to the streets, looking at Lingyu Tianzuan who was wrapped in golden light in the city. His face was full of disbelief. Lingyu Tianzuan betrayed the human race. Tianzuan betrayed the human race. Is this God's death to my human race? Lingyu thief, die. In Tianzuan City, more human monks were unwilling, and they all killed Tianzuan Lingyu, who was wrapped in golden light. But these people, the highest cultivation base is only the Daojun of creation realm, not even a heavenly venerate. How can he be Lingyu Tianzan's opponent, not to mention that the other party now controls Tianzuan City, and his strength even surpasses that of the Demon Court Emperor, even approaching the Earth Immortal. Countless human monks rushed towards Lingyu Tianzuan, but before they could get close, they were shattered by the golden light surrounding Lingyu Tianzuan. When Qin Daoxian saw this scene, his heart was filled with anger. Why seek death? Lingyu Tianzuan looked at the human cultivator like moths to the flame, and sighed, "I just want to become an immortal, what's wrong?" He seemed to be explaining to the Terran monks, and seemed to be making excuses for himself. "It's not me that's wrong, it's this world where the weak eat the strong, the human race is weak, and I depend on the strong, what's wrong? What's wrong?" Looking at the human cultivator who was still rushing towards him, Lingyu Tianzan's eyes were red with blood. "Why do you force me to kill? Why do you force me?" Lingyu Tianzuan was wrapped in golden light. He saw a Taoist in the realm of creation, shattering a little bit in front of him. After his body and spirit were turned into nothingness, he was completely mad. This creation realm Daojun is not someone else, but one of his disciples. "Why, even you have to force me?" In the eyes of Lingyu Tianzuan, a drop of blood and tears fell. "Master, only by doing this, you will have a chance to fly to the upper realm in the future. Lao Qi, don't you even understand being a teacher?" The Daojun of creation realm wrapped in golden light, all over his body, only his head has been shattered. This head opened his mouth with difficulty and said tremblingly, You don't deserve it. After all, this head has completely turned into nothingness." Seeing the disciples whom he had taught for thousands of years fall in front of him like this, Tianzuan Lingyu was completely cold-hearted. "Since you want to die, then die." When the words fell, the golden light around him suddenly burst out. The human monks who rushed towards Lingyu Tianzuan, one counted as one, were all shattered by the golden light and turned into nothingness. The rest of the human race monks either had low cultivation bases, or did not have the guts to fight with Ling Yu Tianzuan, and all looked at Ling Yu Tianzuan with horror. Humph. After killing the human monks who dared to resist, Ling Yu Tianzuan completely controlled the situation in Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian stood outside Tianzuan City, coldly watching the other party slaughter these human race monks, but he couldn't do anything at all. These human race cultivators are in Tianzuan City, and their life and death are only between Ling Yu Tianzuan's thoughts. Even he can't rescue them at all. Ha ha ha! The Yaoting Emperor saw this scene and laughed wildly. Ling Yu, good job. Seeing that Chen Daoxian didn't say a word, the Yaoting Emperor pointed at Chen Daoxian and said, "You and I will join forces to kill him together." "It is good," Ling Yu Tianzuan said coldly. As of now, he has no way back. Chen Daoxian looked at Tianzuan City, which was being suppressed above his head, with an indescribable sadness in his heart. He never imagined that the sharp weapon of the human race would be used on his head one day. How ironic. Today, you must die. Chen Daoxian was murderous. Then see who dies first. Ling Yu Tianzuan is also crazy, although he does not know why Chen Daoxian's strength is so strong, but this does not hinder his ambition to transcend tribulation and become immortal. Even if Chen Daoxian's strength is comparable to that of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, can you help him become a fairy? Even Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan himself has exhausted his lifespan, let alone Chen Daoxian. Even if Chen Daoxian is talented in the future and can take the last step, it will not help him become an immortal. Therefore, in the view of Ling Yu Tianzuan, his choice is correct. Chen Daoxian knew how terrifying the pressure of Tianzuan City was only when he was pressed by the power of Tianzuan City. It is no exaggeration to say that after performing the star, his basic strength has broken through the limitations of the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate and has broken through to the true immortal level. But now being suppressed by Tianzuan town, Chen Daoxian feels that his strength has fallen to the realm of 8 tribulations Tianzuan. Tianzuan City is really extraordinary. It's just the power of repression that makes his power fall to a great realm. Today, you and I will join forces and we will be able to kill this scorpion. After Yaoting Emperor finished speaking, he raised his stick and swept towards Chen Daoxian. Kill immortals. Chen Daoxian raised his axe and struck it horizontally. Boom! The Demon Court Emperor retreated violently. Damn, his axe hurt me too badly before, plus the damage to the fairy weapon, this situation is still not his opponent. The Yaoting Emperor was annoyed in his heart. Chen Daoxian had just fought off the Demon Court Emperor, but before he had time to pursue him, a golden light hit him. It was the attack sent by Ling Yu Tianzuan driving Tianzuan City. Kill immortals. Chen Daoxian slashed out an axe again. Although he blocked the golden light, he was beaten by the golden light and rolled out. Fortunately, his divine body is strong, and the constellation technique in the divine body continuously provides power, which further enhances his defense. Therefore, although he was knocked out by this golden light, he was not injured. See. The Emperor Yaoting hurriedly swung his stick towards Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian forcibly stabilized his figure, swung his axe to meet him, and immediately knocked out the Demon Court Emperor. Being knocked flying by Chen Daoxian twice in a row, the Demon Court Emperor knew in his heart that he was far from Chen Daoxian's opponent. Thinking of this, the Demon Court Emperor has already begun to retreat and is unwilling to fight again. Ling Yu, send me back to the Demon Court. Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was controlling Tianzuan town to suppress Chen Daoxian, was stunned when he heard this, and hurriedly said, "Don't kill him." "Can you kill him?" The Yaoting Emperor looked at the other party with a foolish expression. "Chen Daoxian can't beat you and me, but won't he run? As long as he runs, will you chase him or I will chase him?" Hearing this, Ling Yu Tianzuan fell silent. Indeed, Tianzuan City, or all the immortal cities of the human race, are more than capable of defense, but insufficient to attack. The most typical feature is that the immortal cities of the human race cannot be moved. Although the Tianzuan who controls the fairy city can control it to move in a small area, it is undoubtedly a fool's dream to pursue the enemy of the true fairy level, otherwise the human race will not be beaten everywhere in the struggle with the world monster. The Emperor Yaoting looked at Lingyu, whose face was gloomy and uncertain, and couldn't help but feel a little uneasy in his heart. It is afraid that Lingyu will refuse. However, Lingyu Tianzuan finally nodded, okay, I'll send you back to Yaoting. Hearing this, the Yaoting Emperor suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. He really didn't want to fight recklessly with the barbarian Chen Daoxian. The opponent's 3 consecutive days of chasing and killing left a deep shadow on him. Just as Chen Daoxian stabilized his body, he found that Lingyu Tianzuan was actually performing world teleportation. Of course he didn't want the two to flee. Burn the gods. The second form of opening the sky, beheading the god. With this axe, Chen Daoxian slashed directly towards Tianzuan city. In the eyes of Lingyu Tianzuan, a giant axe that seemed to be able to open up the world, slashed towards Tianzuan city. At this moment, there was nothing else in Lingyu Tianzuan's eyes except this giant axe. He didn't care about his own world teleportation, and immediately controlled Tianzuan city with all his strength to resist the attack of this axe. The other side. But before Chen Daoxian's axe attacked, the Yaoting Emperor was teleported away by Lingyu Tianzuan in advance. Before leaving, it saw again the axe that Chen Daoxian almost killed it 3 days ago. No, this axe is stronger than the previous axe. Boom. The entire inner domain is empty. It seemed that they were all lit up by the flames of this explosion. I don't know how long it took, the light went out, and the golden light on Tianzuan city completely dimmed. In Tianzuan city, Lingyu Tianzuan stared blankly at Chen Daoxian, who was standing above his head like a god, and was shocked. I said, today. You must die. Chen Daoxian said murderously. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 517. Lingyu raised his head, a trace of golden blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. His eyes gradually revealed a touch of madness. Ha ha ha. Want to kill me? Then try it. A larger mana, close to pure yang immortal power, was poured into the control center of Tianzuan city, and the entire Tianzuan city let out a whimper. Immediately, the dim golden light on Tianzuan city began to become bright again. Call. Chen Daoxian looked at Lingyu Tianzuan, who was planning to fight to the death, and said nothing. The divine body is on fire again. In the previous blow, he only burned 5% of his divine body. This time, his divine body directly burned by 30%, which is already desperate. Cut God. Chen Daoxian waved the axe with an indifferent expression. At this moment, Chen Daoxian did not care about any human race weapon or human race monk in Tianzuan city. He only has one thought now, to split the turtle shell of Tianzuan city and kill the traitor of the tribe. For this purpose, he didn't even care about chasing and killing the demon court emperor who escaped. In Chen Daoxian's eyes, traitors are more hateful than foreign enemies. Inner void. A group of brighter light than before erupted. On the ancient city wall of Tianzuan city, a clatter sounded. Immediately afterwards, the golden light completely collapsed, and cracks appeared on Tianzuan city. Tianzuan city, break it. I am afraid that the monks of the human race will never imagine that Tianzuan city will eventually be destroyed by the monks of the human race. After burning up 35% of the divine body before and after, a sense of dizziness struck Chen Daoxian. But at this moment, his Dao Xian will is extremely firm. Chen Daoxian slowly lowered his body, restrained his soaring body, and returned to his normal body. He stepped in Tianzuan city step by step, and the sound of thumping footsteps seemed to hit Lingyu Tianzun's heart. At this moment, Lingyu Tianzun's hair is messy and his expression is sluggish. He looked at Chen Daoxian, who was walking towards him step by step, and wanted to ask for mercy, but the last trace of pride in his heart made him turn his head fiercely. Go ahead. Ling Yu Tianzuan closed his eyes. When he lost, not only did he lose, but he was captured alive by Chen Daoxian. He didn't try to resist in a humiliating way, because he knew that after losing Tianzuan City, his power was as small as a bat in front of Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian didn't ask the reason for the other party's betrayal, and he didn't need to ask. Just as Ling Yu Tianzan's disciple said before his death. He doesn't deserve it. Chen Daoxian slashed the opponent's soul and body with an axe, leaving not even a trace of residue. Just like those human monks killed by Ling Yu Tianzuan. In Tianzuan City. Seeing Chen Daoxian beheading Ling Yu Tianzuan. Those human monks who had been hiding in the city before had the courage to fly towards Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian raised his head and looked at the leader of the Creator Realm. Seeing Chen Daoxian, the Daojun of Creation Realm looked a little embarrassed. Among the cultivators who swore to the death to launch a desperate charge against Ling Yu Tianzuan, most of the cultivation bases were much lower than him. However, he hid in the city and didn't dare to take action against Ling Yu Tianzuan, and he didn't even dare to show his breath, for fear of attracting Ling Yu Tianzan's killing intent. Now, facing Chen Daoxian, he will naturally feel a sense of shame and even fear. Shame is easy to understand. As a human race cultivator who fled, he despised himself a little. But the fear is because of Chen Daoxian's strength. The Daojun of the Creation Realm met Chen Daoxian at the Human Race Heavenly Venerate Conference. He knew that Chen Daoxian was the genius of the human race who had survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, but he did not expect that Chen Daoxian's true strength would be so powerful. Not only did he pursue and kill the Emperor Yaoting by himself, but he also broke through the Tianzuan city guarded by the patrolling Tianzuan. You must know that this heavenly venerate city is a terrifying immortal city that the human race regards as the last line of defense. But now, it was destroyed in the hands of Chen Daoxian. It is estimated that when other human race gods see this scene, they must feel the 5 flavors in their hearts. In the face of such a terrifying existence, how could this Daojun of Creation Realm not feel fear? Heaven. Heavenly Venerable. This middle-aged Taoist figure, the creator of the realm, bowed his head in front of Chen Daoxian, trembling. Are you afraid of me? Ben Tianzuan, under. He shivered, unable to utter a complete sentence. Chen Daoxian didn't want to embarrass him anymore. In the situation just now, shooting at Tianzuan Lingyu was no different from courting death. Thinking from another perspective, Chen Daoxian may not be able to make the choice of the person in front of him. Forget it, let me ask you, what happened to Tianzuan City? What about Gujian Tianzuan? Why did the guards of Tianzuan City change? Chen Daoxian asked 3 questions in a row. Seeing that Chen Daoxian no longer pursued the matter, he had just been greedy for life and fear of death, the Daojun of Creation Realm hurriedly opened his chat box and told the story of the invasion of the 9 War Zone by the Demon Court. You mean the 9 War Zone was invaded by the Demon Court? Chen Daoxian's expression changed and he said anxiously. The middle-aged Taoist-like Daojun of Creation Realm was frightened and nodded hastily. Yes, it is precisely because the Jiu War Zone was fully invaded by the Demon Court, which attracted all the inspection Tianzuan, including the ancient sword Tianzuan. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian completely recalled it. This is a plan carefully planned by the Emperor Yaoting to move the tiger away from the mountain. Even the highest strategic goal of the opponent's move is not only to win the 9th Garrison War Zone, occupy a bridgehead in the human defense line, but also to get rid of him, the inheritor of the Emperor who accepts the Emperor. However, even though Yaoting had overestimated him as much as possible, and even the Emperor of Yaoting had personally taken action, he still failed to take down Chen Daoxian. Not only that, but Yao Court also lost one of their most important chess pieces within the human race. If the Demon Court failed to win the 9th War Zone this time, their losses this time would be too heavy. But Qin Daoxuan's first reaction when he heard the attack on the Jiu war zone was the safety of Fei Qinxue. After more than 10 years, Fei Qinxue was still stationed in Haoyue City in the 9th war zone. Although Qin Daoxian entrusted the relationship, let Fei Qinxue stay in the non-first-line logistics team. But based on what he knew about Fei Qinxue, the possibility of the other party staying in the logistics team was very slim. When concubine Qinxue was in charge of Qianyuan sword sect, it was not because she was afraid of war. But Qianyuan Jianzong must have a suzerain who presides over the overall situation. Now that she has stepped into the extraterritorial battlefield, she is no longer the suzerain of Qianyuan sword sect, but a human sergeant on the extraterritorial battlefield. Naturally, she will no longer escape the war. On the contrary, with the 5,000 insect soldiers given to her by Qin Daoxian, she is more confident to stay on the battlefield outside the territory than any Yuanqin Daojun or even Du Jie Tianzuan. This is also the reason why Qin Daoxian really rest assured that the other party is staying in Haoyue City. Otherwise, with his temperament, Fei Qinxue would have been retrieved back to the rear of the human race. As for Yuanqin Daojun's 100-year service rule, Qin Daoxian believed that with insect soldiers in hand, concubine Qinxue must have accumulated enough military exploits to discharge her from the army. The reason why she didn't get discharged from the army was just because she didn't want to. In fact, any human cultivator, after seeing the tragic battlefield outside the territory, has only one choice left to face it bravely. And concubine Qinxue is such a female cultivator who doesn't let her men down. Tell me, who has the world anchor of the 9th war zone? Qin Daoxian grabbed the sleeve of the creator Daojun in front of him with a grim look. Yes, there are monks in the city who are responsible for teleportation. Where? The other party immediately revealed the specific location. Qin Daoxian let go of the other party, and was about to start a spiritual search, but he felt a dizziness hit him. Damn it! The sequelae of burning the divine body. Qin Daoxian was annoyed in his heart. Although the burning body is powerful, it is a real desperate secret technique. With his last axe, he burned 30% of his divine body, and with the blessing of astrology, the basic power he burst out was infinitely close to the pinnacle of the true immortal level. Coupled with the blessing of the second form of Kaitian, Qin Daoxuan's last blow had already reached the level of Earth Immortal. Otherwise, it will not break through the most powerful city of the human race with one blow. It's just that the outbreak was really happy, but the consequences of the outbreak made Qin Daoxian feel unbearable. The way of the divine body that he cultivates focuses on the fusion of the physical body, the divine soul, and the mana. Therefore, recovering after burning the divine body is not as simple as simply recovering the physical body. But then again, as long as Qin Daoxian didn't actively burn the divine body, the defensive power of the divine body would be 100 times stronger or even more powerful than his original physical body. This was also the reason why he forcibly took an attack that approached the Earth Immortal level, but was unscathed. Once upon a time, physical defense was Qin Daoxuan's biggest shortcoming. But now, Qin Daoxuan's divine body defense ability has become his most powerful part instead of relying on the astrological technique and the secret method of burning the divine body. Restoring the divine body. Qin Daoxian suddenly felt a headache. The Tao of the divine body is powerful, but Qin Daoxian actually did not follow up on the cultivation method. The reason why his divine body was able to be successfully shaped was entirely dependent on understanding the divine body of the emperor killing heavenly venerate and succeeded in cultivation according to the gourd painting. There were flukes in this, but more, he still used the extraordinary understanding blessed by the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. But even with this extraordinary understanding, Qin Daoxian could not create a spiritual practice method out of thin air. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if he can create, it will not happen overnight. At least he can't solve it right now. There is no divine body cultivation method, which means that Qin Daoxian cannot quickly restore the burning divine body according to the cultivation method in the practice method. He can only rely on the most primitive method to slowly make up for the burning divine body by absorbing the spiritual energy from the outside world. But this method, which he tried in the fairy tomb world, is very difficult to work. He had only burned 1% of his divine body in the immortal tomb world, and it took him 2 days to recover slowly. This does not mean that it only takes 70 days to recover from burning 35% of the divine body. In fact, this recovery time is definitely increasing exponentially. In other words, if he burns 35% of his divine body, if he does not have a special secret technique or exercise technique, it will probably take more than 10 years or even decades for him to recover naturally. It is true that this time is not too long for the monks, but Qin Daoxian cannot afford to wait. The Jiu war zone was besieged, and the life and death of concubine Qin Shue was unknown. How can he restore the divine body leisurely here? But Qin Daoxian's damage to his divine body was too serious this time. Even if he forced his way to the 9th war zone, it was hard to say how much strength he could exert. Even if he can't help at that time, it is very likely that he will become a drag. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian made up his mind that he must restore his divine body first. Next moment, Qin Daoxian's figure disappeared directly in front of the creator realm Daojun. When he appeared again, he was already in a cave in Tianzuan City. As for the monk who was meditating and retreating in the cave, before he could react, he was directly moved out by Qin Daoxian with a dumbfounded face. Inside the cave, Qin Daoxian sat cross-legged, and he thought quietly about how to quickly restore his divine body. The composition of the divine body is formed by the combination of the physical body, the divine soul, and the mana. Among the three, the physical body is the easiest to recover, followed by the mana, and the most difficult to recover is the divine soul. Perhaps. Qin Daoxian's eyes gradually lit up. Restore the soul. Restore the soul. Qin Daoxian laughed. Yeah, why didn't I think that the reason why the divine body is difficult to recover is because it contains the divine soul, and the divine soul is injured? How can it be so easy to recover? However, this is not the case for other monks, but not for me. The more Qin Daoxian thought about it, the more excited he became. At a critical moment, he actually forgot his biggest hole card. Hongmeng Enlightenment Sutra. This mysterious scripture, which he mistakenly thought at first could only restore divine consciousness, with Qin Daoxian's current cultivation base, it is natural to know that the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic does not restore divine consciousness, but a more essential divine soul. And quickly recovering the soul must be the key to quickly recovering the divine body. Qin Daoxian was extremely certain. Thinking of this, he stopped delaying, closed his eyes, and recited the Hongmeng Enlightenment Sutra silently. Sure enough, it was at the moment when he silently recited the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. The divine body that had been burnt was actually recovering quickly, visible to the naked eye. Qin Daoxian only recited it once, and his divine body recovered about 10%. Meditate for up to 4 times, and my divine body will fully recover. Qin Daoxian was extremely excited. This discovery means that the burning divine body that was originally used for desperately will become his regular method. Sure enough, after silently reciting the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic 4 times in a row, Qin Daoxian's divine body has been completely restored to its original state. As for the time it took to recover the divine body, it was less than half an hour. Feeling the divine body that is slowly transforming, at this moment, Qin Daoxian's heart is hot. Speaking of his current divine body, it is only stronger than Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, but it is still at the level of the 8th Tribulation Heavenly Venerate, and has not broken through to the true immortal level. And once he burns more than 30% of the divine body, and then cooperates with the constellation technique and the second style of opening the sky, the attack power that erupts breaks through the limit of the true immortal level and reaches the level of the earth immortal. What if his future divine body breaks through to the level of a true immortal? Qin Daoxian is hard to imagine. At this moment, when he looks back at the real enemy of the human race, Chen Daoxian finds that he no longer has any urgency and tension in his heart. The world monster is indeed stronger than the human race now, but because of his existence, the human race is no longer without confidence in the face of the world monster. At least in Chen Daoxian's eyes, the current demon court is nothing more than that. Dong Fuzhong. Chen Daoxian stood up and said firmly, the first shot of the human race to fight back against the demon, let's fire it from the 9th war zone. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.